No, you're not yet, but we're going to.
And then line up my question stuff for me. You know what I mean? When you're done.
Okay, now you're. Okay, this is. That looks like it's going live. Okay, right here.
Yes?
Okay. You guys should be on now.
Okay, sweet. I think we're ready to start. You're going to find out in 1 second. Hi there, and welcome to Real Talk with Angry Soccer Mom. This week's discussion topics include anything you feel is newsworthy about racism, bigotry, and inequality in America. And sad to say, that pretty much covers everything. This show is meant to be. Are we on? We're going to find out in a minute if we're on. We're still new at this.
You're on, but there's a delay.
Oh, okay.
So it hasn't come up yet.
This show is meant to be an opportunity for viewers to speak their mind and to learn and to also educate me and whoever else is here, and to serve as an educational tool for white folks who want to learn the truth about systemic racism in America. And it is quite a journey. It's an education. So I want to introduce.
Hang on a second.
We have to see if we're on. If we're on, I'm going to look right here. Let me see. Looks like we're probably. We're still learning with the two people.
It's not showing up on my feed yet.
It's not showing, but we could start all over. Sorry for the delay.
Okay, now you're live.
Should I start right now?
Mm-hmm.
Over again?
3 people watching, including me.
Okay, and you got to set up my comments.
Is it here?
And I'm not sure. Yeah, right there, somewhere in there. And now we're going to start all over.
Right here.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. Whoa, we're just getting started. Of course, it's kind of a mess because I'm a technological goof.
I just sent you a comment.
Where's my and we will start in 1 second if you can bear with us. I don't see the comments anymore. Almost ready. Perfect. Can you bring it over so I have her picture too? We'll get started in just a minute.
Okay, we just lost the comments because we zoomed in too much.
That's okay. We'll get this. We can do this.
There you go.
Okay, and I can't see her picture.
I don't know how you usually do it.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. We're almost. I just have to get chat showing and.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you. We can start. Welcome. Sorry for the delay. Hi there, and welcome to Real Talk with Angry Soccer Mom. This week's discussion topics include anything you feel is newsworthy about racism, bigotry, and inequality. And apparently, that's pretty much everything in this time in our lives, unfortunately. The show is meant to be an opportunity for viewers to speak their mind and for them to teach us and us to educate them. And the show's meant also as an opportunity for viewers for white folks to learn about the real truth about our nation and systemic racism. So I am extremely excited to introduce my guest, Dr. Cynthia Smith. Dr. Cindy, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. My
Thank you.
pleasure.
And I just want to tell you really quickly about this. Okay, I'm just going to say, she's amazing. Okay, I found her online. She's awesome. You will learn so much. Totally off script here. Dr. Cindy is an anti-racist essayist, an educator, a writer, a novelist, an editor. She does everything. And I'm not sure if she knows this or not, but Dr. Cindy has helped me personally grow by challenging me to be more selective and cognizant of the words I use. So I want to be the best, person I can be with anti-racism. But I'm not really good with my writing. And you have definitely challenged me to pull it together, and it's been a great experience because I want to get to the next level, and every day I want to get to the next level. So she's an author and she's just an amazing teacher. Let me see.
One of the things that I like to do is break down words. I'll call myself a wordsmith.
That's what I put on there for you.
So what I do is I break down some of these words that we use every day, that it become part of the nation's lexicon, as it were. But these are, and some of these words are actually racialized words. They're words that are negative. For example, the word minority. I have a presentation about that. I'm not going to get into much detail about that, but I have one all about that. And in terms of its value, and you'd be surprised that subliminally that word means nothing in terms of numeric value. It means everything in terms of value as a state of being. And the reason why it means everything in terms of a state of being is because of the suffix at the end, the ity. So you're looking at minor, being minor as a state of being.
Yep.
And it came to, remember I told you I get inspired. So what made me get inspired about this was hearing on TV constantly this notion of majority minority, which is an oxymoron.
Yeah.
How is there possibly a majority minority unless the word minority means something other than a numeric value? So that was that part. But anyway, those are the kinds of things I do. I also, now I don't want to segue you, so you.
No, you're fine. I wanted you actually to add a few things for the introduction.
I was going to. I've been an anti-racism essayist and educator for a number of years now. I put up my website in about 2014. I went back to school at age 50 and got my undergrad degree, and then I went back and got my master's in writing studies, and then at the ripe old age of 62, I think it was.
She looks 20, people. 61. She's gorgeous. She looks 20, so no one believes you.
At that ripe old age of 61, I decided to go back and get my doctorate because of the nature, mainly because of the nature of what I educate on. There are people who will say, who the hell does she think she is? So I can say, well, I'm Dr. Cindy, and I have a doctoral degree in education.
And you happen to be incredibly smart. And you're right, her writing is fantastic. The
delivery. Yeah, I don't mince words. That's one thing. I'm not for the faint of heart.
Right,
but I have.
You're real. You're real.
I have a number of white people who are very interested in what I say because it resonates.
Yeah, and you're real, and you're a great educator.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
It's wonderful. So I wanted to, I was going to say, she is a wordsmith. If you go, did you say something? I can't tell. Oh, it's the delay, just the delay. If you go onto her videos and her writing, I know I'm going on and on, you're going to want to do it. Now, before we get started and I do because this stuff's awesome. I want to say hi to some people who are here. Stevie, hello. Thank you for being here. And Kitchen Politics. Everybody cries for Kitchen Politics. Everybody loves him. And Michael, hello. I thank you so much for being here. Lakeisha, awesome. Anton, not again. Thank you so much for being here. He's so funny. He's got that all over. And I think I got to the bottom of that. Oops, wait, let me see. Oh, Neil. Hi, Kim and Dr. Cynthia. I will stay as long as I can. He is not feeling well today. My poor friend. Well, thank you, Neil, for being here. But I'm so excited to have you. So let's get started.
Okay.
So this is Dr. Cindy, and you have to read her stuff and go onto her. Is your YouTube site?
Yes, my
Yeah.
YouTube
Okay.
site is up. I do have videos up, and on my website, www.calease-writer.com
And I'll put it
are
all
my
up.
essays.
I'll put
Yeah,
it
that's
all up in
also
the
where my
description.
essays are, and the videos that are also on YouTube are there. And I also have a Facebook blog page.
Yeah, you have a lot of stuff, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And recently I was asked to be a co-host on a Blog Talk Radio broadcast every Saturday at 6 called The Michael Gay Show.
We'll
So
add that on there.
so I'm a I'm a co-host on
That's
that, and
awesome.
yeah, and I'm going to have an opportunity, and these are all voluntary kinds of things
Of
because I don't
course.
do this for money. I'm retired. You know what I mean? I'm relaxed. That way, I don't have to be pressured into,
Right. You do what you
you know,
want,
yeah.
and you
And
can't be
I'm
bought.
also right, exactly. And I have the honor actually of being a managing editor now, pretty soon, for a new web platform called the Melanin News Network, which is promising to be something really special.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm going to take all of your stuff and put it right in the description
Okay.
so everybody can see it.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to get us going here.
Okay.
I'm excited to see all your stuff. You have a lot going on. Before we get started, I want to introduce myself to anyone who's new here. And I'm just going to scooch this over. Oh, Lakeisha, Dr. Cindy, mental doctor. Um, not like a psychiatrist? Is that what you were?
No,
Yeah, she wants
I'm
to
a
know.
doctor of education,
She's a doctor of education. She has a
an
doctorate.
ADD. Yes,
Yeah,
doctorate of education.
right. I think
Yeah,
maybe
I
she.
don't have a doctor of philosophy. I don't, I'm not a professor. I don't do research that way. I don't work
Right.
for a university.
Cool.
And,
Freddie.
and and that type of degree would place me more in the administrative aspect of a university. I would be like a president or a provost or, that type of thing of
Cool.
a university. Mhm.
Well, I want to say really quickly hi to Freddie. Thank you so much for being here. And for people who do not know me, I want to introduce myself. I'm Angry Soccer Mom. I'm really not that. Well, yeah, I'm angry. Okay, yeah, forget it. I admit it. I host this live show every week. And hi, Learning Social Justice. Thanks for being here. And I run a number of online communities for beginners, people who really don't get it, but they know something's happening and they want someone to teach them. And those are the people that I work with, just the basics, and I try to keep them with me because you know how it's hard to keep them. You guys know. So if you believe, like I do, that it is way past time for white America to start taking some racial responsibility and supporting the dismantling of systemic racism, please join my YouTube channel and get your friends to join who don't know. Your friends who they kind of want to know, but they're kind of,
Okay.
they're timid. I have people write me all the time, and they're white folks don't like to talk about racism. They don't know how to do it, and it's like upsetting to them. Well, that's one of the reasons that I do this show. Not because I'm the most knowledgeable person on the planet, but because I'm white, and you know what? I'm going to talk about it and show some people you can survive talking about racism. So, oh, more people are coming.
Great.
Demetrius, hello. Thank you for the birthday stuff, you guys. That was really, really sweet. It's just, oh my gosh, I was overwhelmed. Thank you so much, everybody. So let's get us, I'm trying to make sure I'm getting everybody. Colin yes. Kitchen Politics, Colin Kaepernick, and Blacklisted, and the number 2 drawer. We're going to get to that. We have a whole section on that. So I'm going to come around here and keep going. Please spread the word about if there are white folks that need to know. I mean, it's a little hint, look at this video. I have some really nasty videos, and I have some really nice, sweet, darling videos. It, depends which one they get. But the number one thing that white Americans can do to support the quest for equity, equality, civil and human rights is to educate ourselves and then get your butt out there and educate other white folks. It is not the responsibility of the people who we've done this to teach. Okay, that's just, so we need to be doing this. And that's kind of
I don't mind.
some people don't like that. I've met,
Yeah.
you know, people who say you should stay out of business. And I've met a ton of people who support me 100% because we did this. We need to step up to the plate and take responsibility. And I have tons of friends that are black friends that love to teach too, but it is not their responsibility.
Exactly.
And so it's not. They don't have to. It's like we have to do it. So the topics for tonight are going to be obviously anything anyone wants to bring up, of course, but just the ones that I've kind of prepped are executive overreach, the snubbing, I didn't have to put it, the snubbing of black excellence, basically. It's the snubbing, like, you don't count. That makes me very angry. Black people on Facebook and the absolute ludicrous stuff that's going on. So while you're thinking of topics, I'm going to do a quick rant, and then Dr. Cindy has some topics that she'd like to address, and I want to get everybody ask. You guys, you have a very, very brilliant woman here. Ask her lots of stuff because she's good. If you don't, so I will start, and then we will get to our current topics. So my rants, I'll try to stay calm with my rants. There aren't too many things that upset white folks more than being called out about racism. Okay? But there is one thing, and that is if you say all whites are racist. That'll get them. And you're not trying to be funny, but some of us white folks believe that because we believe implicit bias is the lowest form. And there's a lot of, and they go crazy. They go crazy, crazy, crazy. And hi, Mr. SF Black, thanks for being here. And so if you don't qualify this with some whites are racist, we become very defensive and hostile at times. And we can't stand to think of ourselves as racist. And it's kind of ridiculous, but as whites, we certainly don't think of ourselves as belonging to some group that's white. We're just the norm. We're just the default, the everyone else is kind of the other. And that is how you're so indoctrinated, you don't even know you're white, kind of. It's like a weird thing. And so people get really mad when you say white people. They're like, don't say that. And I'm like, you want to jump in and say something? Because
I've got the answer to that.
oh, yeah. So this allows us to live a blissful life of ignorance, not knowing about systemic racism, not even knowing it exists, and not knowing about the power-based system that it is, and pretty much have no motivation at all to take racial responsibility because, the denial runs very deep. It's terrifying. It's a huge privilege to live this lie. And for white folks, they need to understand it's huge. We're allowed to live a lie. We could go our entire lives living a lie. That's how strong it is. And I always I know a lot of the folks in the audience, they know all this, but this is, geared towards new people. White folks can't really even handle talking about racism to begin with, let alone hearing our real racial history. I mean, it's barbaric. I mean, I get that part, but most of us think that what we learned in school was actually the real history, so we think we know it already. Oh, I got an A in history. Well, that was whitewashed history. It wasn't really real history. So if you don't know about redlining and black codes and sundown towns and, oh my gosh, a gazillion other things, you don't know our own racial history. So, and in fact, this statistic, and I hate statistics because a lot of people like to kind of, fight them, but for a while, I've seen over and over from pretty good sources, and it doesn't even matter if this isn't even close because this is bad. About half the white people in America who are adults believe that we're in a post-racial era. Still. It's like, okay, no comment. But that's what they think. So this is what we're dealing with. They're still looking for burning crosses and swastikas and people saying the N-word, and like they're not even, they don't know what to look for. And it's hard to find, but oh my goodness, we are not in a post-racial era. Seriously, it's imperative to understand that overt racism of yesteryear has morphed. It changed because now it's not so acceptable as it used to be. Not so acceptable. So in addition to us denying, we also get incredibly defensive when we talk about like the benefits of white privilege. We'll rant about, oh, we work hard for everything I've worked hard for everything. Don't you tell me I have white privilege. Well, they don't realize that white privilege has nothing to do with how hard you work, really. I mean, it's not about how hard you work.
Not economic.
They don't get it. You're born. You got it. I mean, so thank you. And so they just don't get it, and some of them don't want to. So what they're not considering, and they're not considering a lot of things, but one of the things they're not considering is the generations of benefit that they've had of accumulated wealth that other people did not have and still are being held. I mean, they don't get, like, they think they did everything, oh, I'm so wonderful, which is a lovely thing, but the truth is not everybody gets this privilege. So it's a really tough thing. They need to understand what it really is, and there are lots of privileges, but this one's pretty bad. So we even invert the situation and accuse non-whites of using the race card to advance themselves. That is how far the other way it's gone. It's ludicrous. Ironically, if there's one positive thing about him, the president, he's brought us, and this is not easy to say, it's been a cold slap in the face with his blatant and overt racism. And it can't be ignored. People can't be on the fence. And it's always been here. But he's brought it out. And now white folks can't stay so comfortable because they can turn off every social media, but it's much more prevalent and it's in your face, and people have to make a choice. And so we can either look within ourselves and have some discomfort and feel kind of stupid and maybe even feel kind of racist. But you see, the problem is you don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep trying. Or we could be like Trump supporters and ignore reality and call everything fake news and cling to fear and hatred. But there is no neutral. With Trump in the White House, white people are losing one of their favorite privileges. And that's the one that we call keeping our eyes closed and getting to go about our life. So sadly, I'm kind of convinced personally that America's love for racism is so just strong and entrenched in our whole system that we would rather see our nation and ourselves destroyed before we'd help dismantle this barbaric system. The election is... Oh, go ahead.
I know I promised I wouldn't break in, but
I have one more thing to say.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
This election is not about the economy. It's about humanism. And now,
okay,
it is Dr.
Yeah, because the things that you're saying are very important. But in order for the audience to get a clear picture of what it is we're actually dealing with, I wanted to get into what I call racism, evolution, iteration, and revision. It's an essay I wrote.
Perfect
because
timing.
what I think that needs to happen is people need to understand finally, ultimately, just what this thing is. What is racism? Because it seems to be different things for different people. So I'll read this and then I'll get into a little more detail.
Okay, maybe after we can grab some of those questions afterwards, because comments. Because I know I'm sorry, guys.
You're going to need to put on your lenses and your critical thinking caps for this one. What you need to know moving forward regarding racism in the United States The definitions in dictionaries and other sources contain only one context, the one that matches the flavor of racism that white supremacists have been pushing for at least 2 generations.
Mm-hmm.
That of an individualistic and personal behavioral racial bigotry solely on the basis of one's color, any color. This brand or iteration of racism also suggests a source other than the obvious white supremacist ideology from which the original system was spawned, eliminates accountability, and dissolves the responsibility of collective whiteness. Of course, systemic racism contains those individual elements since it could not operate for so long and successfully without them. However, what most people disregard is the what it is, not the how it operates, and most shy away from the who is responsible. Fundamentally, what racism is and was, and I want you to listen because this is what it is and was. The systemic subjugation within established institutions in the United States through structurally designed denial and limited apportionment of opportunity, equity, and justice and equality to control the formerly enslaved and their descendants after the enslavement ended. Those were the slave codes. It morphed into the system of racism. That is what it was. Those were the people for whom it was designed and created for. These were the original fundamentals of its creation, the backbone, if you will. And what continues to work hidden in the background today, unabated with impunity and in perpetuity. To gain a better understanding of the evolution and revision of racism in the US, or the flavor of racism blacks and whites experience in different ways today, based on their own perspectives of this revised conditioning, you should etch the what it is and was into your consciousness, into your conscious mind, and mix it with your own conditioning. Moreover, you need to stay within the confines of the United States when considering this discussion, since I'm not dealing with worldwide white supremacy at this time. I'm dealing specifically and fundamentally with this country. Now, fundamentally how it operates. We did the what it is and what it was. Now we're doing the how it operates. Racism operates as power plus prejudice and bigotry in the form of white and whiteness as superior, and the black formerly enslaved and their descendants as inferior. Put succinctly, the ideology of white supremacy in the US based on skin-based privilege and superiority. By way of history, recall or research as of the first census in 1790, with a total US population of just under 4 million, the only categories for race were free white males and free white females, other free persons, and slaves. Keep in mind, however, that while there were free black people in the US, it is not clear if these people counted as persons. This is how the construct operated and continues to operate, evolved and raised to suit generational changes, albeit in background as hidden. Recall now in the 60s, for all research if born after 1968, racism was revised as the euphemism segregation and desegregation, and integration was introduced as the only way to eliminate this euphemized iteration of racism. This fallacy of ending the Jim Crow legalized segregation of the southern states became the way to declare the successful end of racism in the US. Bear in mind that segregation was but a tiny part of the subjugation of Black people. It was a false representation depicting the end of denial of opportunity. It created the appearance of integration as equality. It did not address true equity, equality, or justice within any notion of real opportunity. What it only offered was limited desegregation through Black entry into a few institutions, including the white economic caste system, which, by the way, only served to enrage white people who thought Black people were taking their livelihoods and, in some cases, their superiority, if that was all they thought they had from them. Nevertheless, integration and segregation are other subjects for another time. Finally, how racism has evolved and how it has been bleached and revised and how it is expressed today. And this is what's important for people to understand today. Today, the individualized, personal, biased behavior of people of any color, based solely on color, is considered racism. All non-white people are equally enjoined with white people in this latest iteration, which is the twisted white supremacist version of equality, where the oppressed are now equally as culpable for racism as their oppressors. Essentially, color changed from simply a tool for purposes of identification of descendants of the enslavement to the entire basis for racism. Moreover, since the 60s version of segregation as the end of racism was not eliminated, racism's true what it is and was needed a new mask with which to hide, to stay in the background. White supremacists now condition the masses with color as both a tool and the basis for racism itself, using it to combine, accommodate, and control its expanding non-white demographic. That's for anybody who happens to wonder why all of a sudden it's people of color. Everybody that's non-white is in one big bucket. Mm-hmm. It's because it has expanded to include non-white nationalities, when the original reason why racism was designed and created was because of the Black enslaved, formerly enslaved. Mm-hmm. Okay, these revisions continue to succeed, while in true vindictive fashion also continues to punish their original targets, who I just talked about, for whom the system was originally designed. Indeed, it is important to understand the past in order to know the dynamics of the present, to enable you to positively and effectively affect your future. That's it.
Thank you. Did you say that's it? I just couldn't hear you.
Yeah, that was it.
That is, I'm going to have to reread. I'm going to have to reread that. It's heavy. It's like, it's a lot. And thank you so much for sharing that. And
so people just need to understand, Kim, that racism is what it was, and now it is what it is today, because it's fluid. Mm-hmm. Okay, during the post-racial era, and I know I've typed that out and I've talked about it, during the post-racial era of the 70s through 2016, racism was the institutional racism was hidden. It was still there, but it was hidden, and whiteness as a state of being disappeared. And normal, neutral, and natural became the terms most used to describe what used to be white. Now, your poorer white people who only had that's all they had, was their whiteness as a state of being. Those are the ones who are the most angry and the ones who are the most vocal today, because they feel like Trump has allowed them back that which they lost during that colorblind post-racial era.
That makes total sense, unfortunately.
Well, it's the truth.
Yeah. It makes sense, but the people who are following him, are you kind of saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, like these people are desperate to be seen and heard and
Well, the ones who are his total base, because
yeah,
you've got people who are really his constituents, who are the 1%ers and the 5%ers,
absolutely.
the ones with the money. See, this
Yeah.
is another thing that I wanted to talk about too, that white people don't understand, is that they too are you too are subjugated.
Yep.
You are subjugated by virtue of the economic caste system. You have accepted your caste, whether it's middle, upper, lower, or that, that term that you guys use for your lowest end of that ladder, the white trash.
White
You
trash,
see what
right.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
But be that as it may, that is a system that you live under, and it is why one of the things that you said, it's like when white people talk in terms of privilege or not having privilege, the only lens from which they can view it is through their economic class caste subjugation where they live.
Right.
They don't have the same. And when we talk about privilege, the privilege is in the fact that they don't live in the system of racism, which affects not only economics,
Yeah.
but law, labor, entertainment, religion, politics,
Education, just yeah.
education.
Yeah.
That is so the difference between white subjugation and black subjugation is that white subjugation is only economic. And if you don't
Mm-hmm.
think so, try going beyond your means. They're
Yep.
going to give you, initially you got some land, you got some money, the ancestors got some land and some money, and they told them a big lie and said, you're better than these black people.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be friends with them. Don't associate
Yep.
with them. They're nothing. You are this. You are like us.
We bought into
Which
it.
was the worst lie you could have been told.
It's like we bought into it.
The only thing, exactly, because the only thing that ties white people with the people who are controlling them is, guess what? The color of your skin.
Yep.
Because you share the same skin color. Now I got banned off of a page. Remember the page to tell you I got banned off of? It's called White Lives Matter.
Oh, you can talk about that one.
I got banned off that page because I was trying to tell them, look, you guys are being subjugated. You are living in a system of oppression.
I call them
But
suckers.
you've accepted this. Why? Because they've told you, and it's been conditioned so deeply, and you're so indoctrinated.
I tell them they're conned.
The fallacy of white supremacy, skin-based superiority, which is a lie.
They bought into the lie.
They bought into the lie. And because they're not subjugated in those other areas that black people are living under the system of racism, they feel, oh, then we must be better.
We must be superior.
Because we're not getting treated like that.
Yep.
And why? Because we are kindred spirits with these people who are controlling us up here. When the reality is, absent all the bull and the lies, is that we are all being controlled.
Yep. And they don't want to hear it.
Mm-mm.
They do not.
Not as long as they're only subjugated in terms of economics. But and this is the sad part, because slowly but surely you're seeing the middle class
disappearing. Yep.
It's disappearing. And that is within the white economic class caste. Black people, we never really had.
Yeah. Yep.
We never really had a middle class.
Yep.
Desegregation threw us into the white economic class caste for a period of time. That's what that was all about. I don't even call it the civil rights movement. I call it the economic apportionment movement.
Yep. Yeah. It all, the way I say what you are saying is I make it like a little bit more simple, because the people I work with are very, very new. And I'm maybe you're nicer about it, because I say, you guys have been conned. You bought the lie. You bought the lie.
I get deep like that too.
Yeah, you bought the lie, and the 1% have you controlled, and
I even have an essay on that one.
Yep.
I call it for white people who think who think they're in control or
Yeah.
something like that.
It's,
Somebody
yeah.
else.
It's like I have a video on it, and I say, and they thank you very much for your service, because
Yeah.
it's true, but they just don't want to hear it because, for a lot of reasons. They're once we don't want to be wrong, but it's like they don't understand. And this is something I want to ask you real quickly before we go on to our. I don't want to read everyone's comments, and I'm sure they have questions for you too. Is when, wow, what I was trying to think is when I'm blanking completely on what I was going to say.
I know. I can. It can get a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, it's a lot. I have things are going through my head. I think it's just kind of strange because when white folks when white folks actually are super racist, and then you say, but that's nice. Let's say you really truly believe that. Okay, be racist. But my question is this: when we say to them, you're working against your own, this isn't good for you either. That's what they won't listen. They don't get, like, you're being conned. You're working against your own best interest. And that's what I don't get. Like, why can't they catch on that you've been suckered? If we all united, the 1%,
Yeah, the inherent lure of superiority
is that what it
is strong. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Like, why? It drives me crazy.
Very strong. It's very strong.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Who doesn't want to be better? I mean, see, you can take it out of the context of race and call it exceptionalism.
Yeah.
Competition is based on exceptionalism.
Yeah.
Competition in the United States. The United States is exceptional. It goes
Right.
well beyond that. So if you say, remember that time we had that discussion over whether or not the country is better than this, like we're better than this, and I commented to you and said, no, you really aren't. The best that you can do is to try to be better than you've been.
Right, and that's when I said that I meant
So,
people,
no, I know,
humans should be better than
I know
this.
what you're
But
saying.
yeah,
I'm saying that to
Yeah.
say that it's all about the exceptionalism that is built, hardwired at this point. It's in the DNA of white people to be exceptional, to be living in an exceptional country, and then
Yeah.
living within this exceptional country being white.
right.
Manifest destiny.
Yeah, oh, yeah, because part of it is
It's deep. It's in the DNA.
yeah, part of my problem's been simply that if you're, a person with a normal IQ, regular IQ, whatever, pretty good, you're not better than black people. So you're living a lie. Like it's like you're.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you stop and you think about just the sheer notion of a skin-based superiority, that is ridiculous.
It's ludicrous.
But then you realize, oh, that must be why there's a system of racism in place, because there has to be in order to support the fallacy, because it is a fallacy. Because if you understand,
Yeah, yeah.
and white people have to believe that there is no system in place to put a foot on the neck of someone to keep them from making the lie real. That's why the system is in place, to deny and then apportion on a limited basis for that, what do you call it, plausible deniability of his existence.
Right. It's
And
like a psychological thing. It's just.
it is.
Oh
That's
my
what
God.
I said. It's hardwired at this point. So you've got people, the people who have come to the realization that it was a lie. They then have to come to the realization that there is a system in place to keep the lie going, and has been a system in place to keep the lie going.
Yeah.
So it's not just not believing the lie.
All right, because
It's understanding that there's a system in place that keeps that lie going. And then once you understand that then you want to figure out, well, what is it? Why do they do that? That's because it's so deeply meshed, this superiority thing.
we need it.
If there was real freedom, justice, equality, and equity for everyone, that lie would dissolve immediately.
Thank you for explaining that. Yeah. I always wondered why the little kids, they'll play with anybody. They don't care what.
Because it doesn't. That has nothing to do with when little kids are playing. They have no idea
Yeah.
about the system that governs.
Right, and as they get older, they
still don't.
And the older, and then pretty soon they're
because there's nobody there to tell them. They become comfortable within their own bubble of economic caste.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
and then
very
of course
complicated.
we've got this content of character thing going on right now. You know, we're supposed to be Dr. King's dreams. So what has happened in that sense is that the war on drugs and the war on crime created the content of the Black character as criminals. So if absent color, now you've got content of character issues to deal with. We've got that to deal with on top of everything else.
I don't want to interrupt, but
no, go ahead.
Right, exactly what you're talking about, and it's something, and I want to ask you about this because it's something I came up with. I didn't read it anywhere, so I don't know if it's a legit thing, but I think a lot of white folks, obviously there's a lot of denial, and they're in the system, but a lot of my friends say, I'm nice to everybody. I treat them based on their character, so I'm doing my part. They don't understand. It's a system. It's not enough. It's lovely to be nice to everybody, but that's not going to dismantle it. I'm nice to everybody. So they kind of say, I'm not part of the problem. And so they do nothing. And that's what drives me crazy. It's not the extreme.
But they haven't dealt with their unconscious bias.
They don't, I deal with my unconscious bias all the time. I'm constantly going, okay, I mean, I have to, every day I humble myself. I mean, or I just think.
Because if you don't want to be considered racist, if you're white and you don't want to be considered racist, you're going to deal with the content.
You have to work.
Issue. You're going to see that stuff on TV and say, well, this doesn't have anything to do with color. I mean, this has nothing to do with race. Yeah. But they are just those people are just criminals. Look where they live. Look how they are. Look how they dress. Look how they behave. Look at the content of their character. Because this is what
exactly. It's almost because I love,
It's actually pretty brilliant if you ask me. Those people up there in the 1%, I mean, that's pretty smart people.
I call them evil geniuses. They're evil. They're evil. I'm sorry, they're evil.
Are they from another planet? I mean, it's said.
And I don't mean it biblically. I mean, they're evil.
They can't, because they've been able to design it and construct and perpetuate
workarounds
an entire set of systems and institutions for the two races in this country. I mean, it is worldwide, but I don't really focus on the Pan-Africanism or that part. I leave that to people who want to do that, and that doesn't mean that I'm not interested.
Right, but it's so much.
I focus on this country because this is where I live and I'm in America.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm the same way. I can't. It's just.
But racism exists worldwide.
Oh yes.
And white supremacy exists worldwide. It just has different names.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, I'm so happy with having you.
Okay. You go ahead and go and you get to the questions if you want to. You and I talk all
I know, really. Everyone, I know, really. This is awesome because I am learning so much, and even though I kind of teach it at a lower level in the sense it's kind of general, it's this is helping me tremendously. So let me get to people who have been so patient, and I will read stuff, and if there's anything you want to jump in on, just say the word.
I can't see the questions, so you can.
I got them. Yep, I got them. And some of them, if they aren't on topic, we'll just read them and you can move on. Kitchen politics. If the Mueller report actually exonerated Trump, wouldn't he be selling autographed copies on his personal website? If Trump wins into 2020, the revolution that may happen will make an Arab Spring look like a garden party.
I think that if anything was to happen, it will happen even before 2020.
Yeah.
Because they've already begun. They've placed Barr in contempt of Congress. they're gunning for him now. Like the Democrats know now what it is they're going to have to do. They know what the end game is, and
Yeah.
the Republicans are scrambling. I mean, anytime they're going to talk about Mueller's report is under executive privilege now, when before it wasn't, and he wanted everybody to see it, and he was so happy with it. They're all scared, very very frightened, and yeah.
Yep, he's a
So
con man, and he's getting boxed in a little bit.
he is a con
And he's
man.
good at it. I mean, I'll admit that he's good at it. Really
He's
good at it.
good. He's very good, and that's
He's
the nature of con men.
yeah.
You know, that's the whole.
Mhm.
That's the short form of confidence. They build your
Yep.
confidence, and that's what he did. And he's cult like. You know,
Oh yeah.
he built a cult
Oh
following
yeah.
from his
Got the little
apprentice.
hats and everything, and the
Yeah, but he built
mhm.
that cult following from his apprenticeship.
Yeah. Now he's. I thought he was going to be real awful, and he's outdone himself.
He
He's
has.
way worse than. All right, let me move on here. Oh, Freddie, you said thank you for the invite. You're very welcome. And let me see. Let me see. I will keep trying to scroll through here. Oh, Demetrius, thank you for the invite. Happy birthday. Thank you.
Happy
Um,
birthday!
thank you. Learn social justice. How about classism? White men need to
Yes.
address that also.
Yes. Well, I did speak about classism a little bit. I call it the white economic class caste. It's a system. It's a caste system, and it's a caste system based on class. And um, when the first Americans came over here, they didn't come over here as rich people. They came over here. They were called mudsills. They were called everything nasty you could call them. They were brought over here. They were the white people brought over here were the ones that were initially supposed to be doing the work to till the soil, to make this land, this land was made for you and me kind of land. And not as slaves, they were given land, but they were not considered, or what they were considered were the hoi polloi, or commoners.
Hmm.
And only because they were deemed too lazy,
Hmm.
they
Interesting.
brought in the slave labor.
Hmm. Yep.
The people in the power positions brought in the slave labor because there's a book, you go ahead. I'm gonna look for this book,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna
Yeah.
then
That's.
I'll mention it.
You're making great points. Okay, I'll keep going. And what I love, Dr. Dr. Cindy, what I love about you is that it's when I watch news and they kind of give a general idea,
Mhm,
it's not really accurate. We
mhm,
need the details. Details matter with this stuff.
mhm.
And I just appreciate hearing that. I want to hear the nitty gritty. I want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, which is mostly what it is. Very ugly and barbaric. But I want to get this because I want the truth. I don't want
Yeah,
the sweet, nice version. I want to know. And I
yeah.
have to know. So let me get through.
It's really sad that the Republicans have Well, I'm not going to say Republicans, because at this point
Yeah.
it's something else. The
Yeah.
Republicans, if there was a coup, the coup happened in about 2010, when the Republicans were taken over by what was loosely called the Tea Party.
A, my friend Michael talks about it all the time. It's when he got out of politics and out of this. He just was like, I'm out. I'm done.
Hmm.
He. Yeah. Wow. I don't know if he's still listening because he had to go to bed early, maybe. But I'll get to some more questions.
Okay, I just want to mention that book.
Oh, go ahead. Do you have it?
It's called White Trash. It's called The 400-Year Untold History of Class in America, and it's by Nancy Eisenberg. It is a must read. It is available on Audible for those of us who don't really like to read, and that's ironic. There's the irony because I'm a writer, right? But I don't like to read. But I love Audible because I get to read hundreds and hundreds of books
Yeah.
through this medium.
Yeah.
And this book, like I said, is called White Trash: The 400-Year Untold History of Class in America. It gets down into it. Trust me. When you
Yeah.
finish that book, if your mind hasn't completely blown off the top that just doesn't go you go, it makes you understand everything else. Like if you were to get this book and read it over the next course of the next week, everything that I've said to you tonight, and they play this video again,
Mind equals
they'll
blown.
say, "Oh, okay, I get it."
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Cool. So we'll stick that in the we're gonna put a lot of things in down below.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get to some more. Oh, did you, Lakeisha? And I know I'm way behind, so I gotta catch up here. Minister Farrakhan. Did you want to say anything about that? Lakeisha that was one of her comments. Is that
Okay.
you don't have to, only if you know.
Oh, sure, I will. I don't generally get public about African American people because I think, as a rule, we get bad enough press, because,
I don't either.
without me throwing in my 2 cents. But having once been Muslim back in the 70s, I was MGT, Muslim Girl in Training, under Master Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him. I was in it more for the nationalist movement
Huh?
of doing for self and becoming who you are, being attractive without attracting, that type of thing. These
Huh?
were the things we were taught. Um, Farrakhan stepped away from the Nation of Islam after Elijah Muhammad passed, and Wallace B. Muhammad took over the Nation of Islam. Okay. Farrakhan felt he should be the logical ascend. He thought he should ascend. So he broke away at that time. Now, I stayed with Wallace B. Muhammad, who kept changing and changing and different iterations of it. Then it turned into something altogether unrecognizable. So I got out because I wasn't involved in the religious aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, of course, I named my kids. First we had the X names, and then we got put into the Book of Life, which gave us the opportunity to give ourselves names. I was Hamida Naeem, and my oldest is Rafiq Jamil Naeem. My daughter is Amina Safareen Naeem, and
Oh
my
my goodness.
youngest son is Ahmad Malik McGlone. That type of thing, Naeem McGlone. So, I was all in it, and I gave them names that had meanings, because there are some very beautiful meanings to their names. Rafiq means trustworthy, loyal companion. Jamil means handsome, and Naeem means gentle. It's a very gentle religion. It really is. It's getting such bad press. But
Yeah.
now, getting to Farrakhan. Uh, in terms of free speech, I think he deserves the opportunity, and I think it was wrong for them to create an equivalence between these far right movements and Minister Louis Farrakhan, because nowhere can you find where he has been violent, has incited anyone to violence.
Right. Yeah.
But on the other side, you can't say that same thing.
Right.
So
Right.
there,
Absolutely.
you can't even create an equivalence in the message or what it is that they espouse. Now,
Yeah.
I personally am not a fan of Minister Louis Farrakhan, and that reason why I'm not a fan is because there was a point in this century when he took his followers into Scientology,
Okay.
which is a cult.
Yeah. So he
And
lost
to
your
me,
respect, and he.
I,
Yeah.
I lo- yeah, because I know it wasn't about anything but money if you're going to get involved with miscavige.
Right.
And how you could, once you've got your cult following, which is what Farrakhan has, because he's a cult leader, he is.
Yeah.
He brought these people into that thing, and I was just
Yeah.
okay. So yeah.
Yeah. That's a great answer.
But in
Yeah.
terms of free speech, yeah, he should have a right to be on Facebook.
Yeah, it wasn't my. I had a person that I know, and I don't know him well, approached me and really, really wanted me to push this in my. And it's not my place to judge, or that's out of my lane.
I mean, if you're going to keep it in terms of free speech, but a number of people were trying to make it all about Farrakhan himself.
Yeah, and so
I'm with Farrakhan.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't honestly say I'm with Farrakhan.
Well,
but at the same time, I think that he should have the right to free speech.
Absolutely. I took my mentor's cue and I did not do it, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, it would have. They probably would have misunderstood you and misconstrued everything.
Yeah, I have to be kind of careful because
turned it into a racial issue.
Yeah. So I just and he was upset, and I asked 3 mentors that I have who are Black people, and they are very. They said don't do it. I said okay.
I would have advised you against it as well.
So, but he was really upset, and I felt awful about it. But, it's not. I can't be out of my lane like that. It'll cause nothing but problems. But yeah, thank you for that. That's. Oh, Shan, hello. I hope you're still here. I know I'm so late. Thank you for being here. Let me see. Learn social justice. Structural racism means white people don't even have to be personally racist for racism to exist. Thank you. So, right. That's what they don't get. It's not about us. Like I keep telling them, you don't need to be defensive. It's not about you. I must say that like 20 times a week.
Actually, I have to disagree slightly with that. And I actually wrote an essay about that.
Tell me.
I thought that too. I had in a number of my essays prior to around 2014, 15, 16, 2014 and 15 were more about structural institutionalized racism and what I thought about it relative to the individualized piece. And I had to actually rethink. And I did a video on that as well.
I'll have to take a look at that.
It is, yeah, because individually, yes, white people, yes, they are responsible. Yes, right. It is about you. And you can't dismiss the fact that it is about you. It's about you and collective whiteness.
Right. And what I kind of get at is with the people who are so defensive, they, what I'm talking about is they make it all about them. Like now it's their hurt feelings.
Okay, I see.
And it's like
that happens because they don't want to be generalized. But
right.
At the same time, they've been generalizing Black people for generations.
Well, that's okay, but not us.
One bucket, yeah. But the minute that you say white people are, then they want to differentiate it, and that comes from the individuality, which is a privilege.
Absolutely.
That was given as a concession for losing whiteness back in the post-racial colorblind era of the 70s.
Right, and I read your stuff on that, and yep.
You know, that's why that is.
Yeah.
It's because of, they would, you would get, because at the same time, simultaneously, these things are not really just happenstance. Simultaneously with this post-racial colorblind era was the Me movement, the I Me movement of the 70s. Everything was all about me. I, not black me, not black I, because we were too busy trying to collectivize, unite, and make lemonade out of them lemons them black lemons. It's like okay, we're being told that we're this, and that, and no, we're saying we're going to use that and say we're black and proud. So we were trying to collectivize, and white people were trying to disperse and become individuals.
Yeah, and part of that for me, when I say it's not about you, is the white folks that I deal with at the very low level have this tendency to completely not understand.
It needs to be qualified as some.
Yeah, and it's even if you qualify it as some, right? It has to be, and that's ridiculous because they don't get the system.
It has to be acceptable.
They don't get the system.
And the only thing that's acceptable is to say some.
Yeah. And so I like to try to separate them. And I'm not saying that people don't have individual personal responsibility. That's huge.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying that.
That's okay.
But to talk
to them.
You're
not, but I thought that was what the person who commented.
I'm not sure. Unfortunately, we're so behind we can't get his take. But yeah, I'm not sure either. But yeah, my whole thing with that was simply that in order to, I'm a white person and they won't listen to me until I separate them because they're so, and then we'll come back. But it's defensive.
Oh yeah.
And it's really hard. So when I push the system side, because once you get the system side, then a lot of times it falls back and you're like, well, I want to be part of the solution. So then I'll do introspection. I'll think about me. But until they're convinced with the system side, they're like, I'm nice to everybody.
Right. Oh, I get you. Yes.
Do you get it?
Because they're not believing that the system side exists. Because
Right.
for the system side to exist, it would mean that the whole concept of superiority based on anything
Exactly.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Or is in fact a lie.
They
Don't want to believe that.
They can't lower the, exactly. And
especially people that they think they're kindred spirits with, because they
oh,
share skin colors. Like God forbid they do. No, it's not them that's doing this to me, that wants to take away my health care and
right.
take my jobs.
Ex-
It's the Mexican and the black people and
yep.
the Muslims
Yep.
and this is everybody else. But God forbid it should actually be the people who share the same skin color.
Yep, they can't take it. They can't handle it. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect mixed with the backfire effect all together.
Mm-hmm.
It's very psychological. But yeah, oh my gosh. So yeah, you get what I'm saying. It's like I work with these, like they're really, I gotta get them to
They're
get
right
it.
in the beginning. They're in the throes.
And they'll leave and they'll never come back.
Cognitive dissonance is kicking in.
Yeah, so I have to kind of, it's not, you've done nothing wrong. And then once they see the history.
Right. I didn't know slaves.
Right. Yeah, they can't. Oh boy. Yes. Totally. So you totally get it. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What did I do?
This is awesome having this talk. I'm loving it. Let me see here. People are probably like, read our questions. Okay. Where was I? Mr. F.S. Black, white American. White Americans have the luxury of being oblivious. This was basically from, I'm guessing at the time, from my rant. Yeah. And we don't want to lose that privilege. That's why Kaepernick, oh my God, that made us really, really mad because he made us pay attention. He made us, we couldn't just have fun and pretend it wasn't there. We had to actually see this guy and oh my gosh, he disturbed our fun little, that's my take, but, and I have a take. Let me see here. Lakeisha, they say black people are dangerous because it hurts white people's pockets. Do you know what? I don't want to misrepresent, and I know we're so behind. Do you know what she's referencing by any chance?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay.
Unless she's talking about the economics. Unless she's talking about economics, say that statement again.
They say black people are dangerous because it hurts white people's pockets, like pocketbooks, probably. I'm guessing.
Well, that's the I can see where during the 60s when the powers that be opened up the white economic class caste and said, okay, black people, we're going to desegregate, we're going to integrate you into this system. Economic, so now we are not going to discriminate against you in our jobs, in our this.
So it's not really theirs.
Well,
they're doing a favor.
That's the way that the power is thinking. Is what we're going to do is we're going to integrate you into this system, this economic system. And so what the white people who were experiencing this were saying is, I'm not getting this job because this black person is getting it now. So this person is taking my bag. You see what I'm saying? This black person is taking my money.
Yep.
So I think if that's the context that this person is thinking of,
Lakeisha,
I can see where they thought that.
Yeah, and the whole truth is that no, it's the wealthiest elites who are screwing us all over. Yeah, it's hard unless we have phone calls to I want to clarify and we can't, but. I'm sure she'll tell us later. Kitchen politics. Trump is as useless. Oh, you're going to make me swear again? Kitchen, get me kicked off of YouTube. Kitchen politics. He's so funny. He's a useless asshole with taste buds. Do you think Congress will ever come to impeaching him before 2000? I'm sure this is for you. 2020. I know the GOP controls U.S. Senate. Will they
I
put
think so. There's
patriotism
some people
over
who don't think
justice?
so, but I think that that's what's happening. I think that it's leading to
Good
that because
question.
I think that they're running out of options.
He's got everything in
They
litigation.
they're subpoenaing, and they placed the Attorney General of the United States in contempt of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
The courts are packed. The Supreme Court is packed. We are in effect in a constitutional
Constitutional.
crisis
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
if they don't use the term impeach, which will allow them to just bypass Barr and the presidency
Mm-hmm.
to get what they need, um, then they're going to keep getting stonewalled because the only thing that they're doing over there is stalling.
Yeah, they're backing us so far up that he's going to have the.
They're
Yeah.
stalling it. They're stalling.
Yep.
So because they're thinking that if we keep this thing tied up in the courts,
Mm-hmm.
that the entire year will go
He'll be
by
president again.
and we'll be in
Yep.
2020 and that type of thing. See, what people need to understand, everybody needs to understand, is that the things that this president is doing is going to affect presidencies for all time.
Yep. He's
And if he
circumventing the
gets if
spirit
if
of
he
the
gets away
Constitution.
with the behavior and the out and out criminal behavior,
Mm-hmm.
then that opens the door for anybody to do the same thing.
Yep.
And he's already implying, and say they have to, the reason why they have to work fast is because he's already throwing feelers out there.
Oh yeah.
Give me I need
2 more years. Right.
2 more years.
He wants to be
I
king.
need 2 more years.
He wants to be king. We all know.
Remember when it was president, he liked the idea of president for life.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Oh,
talking
there's
about
so many
the
things.
coup to keep him out. He's talking in terms of
Regime.
yeah.
He's not even shy about it.
He is a totalitarian dictator.
Oh, he loves the Kim Jong-un. He loves.
I mean, he is at this time a totalitarian dictator.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so, what's left is that portion of the legislative branch. That's the only thing left.
Yeah, and that's actually something that we have.
If he's able to usurp them, then there's nothing left. There's nothing anybody can do.
Yeah, we have one of our
Because
topics
it's
is that.
guaranteed. I mean, let's face it. Majority does not matter when choosing a president. There's no such thing as majority rule in this country
Yeah.
because of the electoral system.
Yep. And he is
So,
going for the executive power grab.
The country's working in his favor. Go right back in.
Yeah, the executive power grab is terrifying. I mean, that to me is, and we have a thing on that later on if we want to keep going. I'll get a couple more questions. Learn social justice. Was Obama racist? Well,
no. There's no way that Obama can be racist because the people who are being oppressed cannot oppress themselves.
Right, and I tried to.
It's as simple as that.
Explain
There's
that.
no such thing as a black racist because we do not have
the power
and control over white life.
Right, and I try to teach that, and I can't. A lot of people go nuts.
We do not have systems in place that we can dismantle for ourselves and put them on you.
Right, the white people have the power.
Individual bigoted behavior,
sure. Yeah.
But it has no power.
Now, Dr. Cindy, I tell people who are really having a problem with the whole power thing, I say, look, racism has a power base to it. But if a black person can be rotten to a white person and be mean to them, and that's being a bigot. That's being prejudiced. But it's not racist. Racism, and I try to teach them, that is something different.
Racism is a police officer who can pull someone out of their car
and shoot them and kill. Yeah.
Drop them to the ground, twist their arms, throw them in jail, and then have them found dead 3 days later.
And the police, nothing happens to him.
And he got acquitted.
Yep, the police is acquitted.
All he had to do was promise he would never join any police force in the country.
Yep, all they have to do is
and he got away with it.
Be reasonable and fear for their lives.
The difference between racism and not being racist.
Right. Right.
Simply arguing back and forth with someone who is white does not make you racist. I might call you a white bastard. That does not mean that I'm racist but you could call me a black bee, call the cops, have them pick me up. How about the woman who had that happen to
Risk
her?
your life. Risk your life.
She was just merely standing and by a home, and the white guy comes out with the gun, threatens her with the gun.
Yep.
She calls the police. She's just insane with fear.
Yeah. He puts her in a headlock.
Get angry with her.
Yep.
And put her in a headlock.
They blame her.
her.
He says, "What'd you do?"
Why? Because she was upset.
She had that gun to her head.
And he felt that she had become uncontrollable. Mind you, she had just gotten a gun put in her face.
And she wasn't uncontrollable. That was crazy.
Every epithet known to.
I did 2 videos on that. I was so pissed. That
is the difference between me being a racist,
right,
and a white person being a racist, because the white people have the power to affect my life.
And some of us know it and use it. And it's disgusting.
And that, exactly. Some white people don't know it. Some white people know it and use it. Some white people know it but refuse to acknowledge it.
Yeah, and it's terrifying.
That's the difference.
Thank you. That was a fantastic example of not just talking about it, but actually showing an example. Thank you. That was because I'm going to use that.
That's where power. That's the power dynamic.
Yeah, because I'm going to use that because people get, at this level, at the level I work with people, there's not a lot of new stuff. I just have to improve how I explain, because you know what I mean. There's about 30 major denials, and that's it. But, let me see. Michael says, no, I do not. I'm assuming he's saying no to, probably to social justice. Kitchen politics. Oh, says, no, Obama was not racist. It's impossible. He doesn't, yeah. Learn social justice. Why not? What did he?
Even in his position as president, he didn't really have that kind of power. If he had real power, he could have dismantled the system of racism.
I think that's what people wanted him. They didn't get it.
Institutions.
Yeah.
The Civil Rights Act has been revised and revised and revised 8 times.
Yeah.
We've had 8 Civil Rights Acts since slavery. Not just the one in the 60s.
Yeah. They do not want.
Because they repeal them.
Yep. They don't want. Okay, let's just be real. They don't want black people.
The Voting Rights Act was never made into a law because they wanted to have the option to take it away.
Mm-hmm. It cracks me up. Yeah. It cracks me up. People who say like, there are some people who think right when people who were forced into an enslaved status were freed. Oh, that's it. Equality. Are you kidding me? It's like,
almost immediately the race codes kicked in.
Oh, yeah.
You could be put in jail for loitering.
Right.
And then once placed in jail, then you become part of that exclusion clause, which says that race,
you can be a slave.
That slavery still exists if you are convicted of a crime.
Yep.
And that still holds today. That's the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, and that's called the exclusion clause, which is why you've got an overabundance of black people in prison today.
Yep. And I did a video on that because I was like, it's enraging. People don't get it. Slavery was not all the way abolished.
It wasn't abolished all the way. But if you're convicted of a crime, you can be a slave.
And they will too.
Almost immediately after the enslavement, during the Reconstruction, when that was just dissolved, basically. The race codes kicked in, which became
slavery under another name.
Those laws, Jim Crow existed in Connecticut and Chicago. I mean, Illinois. It wasn't just the South.
Right. That's a fallacy that we're taught.
And Midwest that followed the edicts of, what's termed Jim Crow.
It's part of our whitewash history to not get that. the northern, no. This was a whole, everyone got a piece of the pie who was in the north and in the, people, our whitewash history
laws,
teaches us.
Each state had their own set of laws governing how to control their black population.
I think
some states decided not that they didn't want a black population, like Oregon.
Oregon, yeah.
We don't even want black people.
I know. When I read about Oregon, I'm like,
and Washington State wasn't was just as bad. Yeah.
But the Oregon thing, I was like, it's like.
And you know what? You mentioned sundown towns. This was really interesting about the sundown town. If you watched westerns back in the day, you always heard them say, the white guy with the white hat say, "And I want you out of town."
Yep.
By sundown.
Exactly.
So we were, groomed to think that this just meant the outlaws, the guys with the black hats.
Oh, the propaganda is real.
Oh, sundown towns were for black people. Look, black people, you better not darken this town after sundown or we have the right to kill you.
Yep. It's unbelievable.
That's the difference between a racist and not.
That is why I love to teach the very, very most ignorant white folks, because these things speak for themselves. You have to take that and digest that and go away and come back in a week and I'll give you something else, because it's life changing. When you're like, okay, I was lied to. My God, I was lied to. My parents lied to me. My school lied to me. I'm living a lie. So and then you have to, it's a whole process, but.
It is. It's a process.
But I have seen
you basically
miracles.
have to unlearn. You have to unlearn what you were spoon fed as a child. Michael Eric Dyson's grandson, I think it was had his first experience at 6 years old recently with racism, and I wrote a commentary on that to say that is usually when a black child, that's the age, which is usually when a black child experiences their first racist behavior.
My friend Kenny, I think it was around then too.
Yep. It was, I think, around 7 or 8 for me. I mean, 6, yes, when I used to go to Virginia, and my mom and used to take us to Virginia on the ferry. This is before the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. They had a ferry that went from Maryland into Virginia. And of course, we get on the ferry, but we had to make sure we had our own food. We had to make sure that we went to the bathroom before we got on that ferry, because they had the black bathrooms that said for coloreds, for white.
That's where my friend Ken got his first. Interesting.
The water fountain was rusted. And yes, it was horrible. So, you knew, and we never were allowed to go beyond a certain level. But I often remember after the Civil Rights Act, I think it was the one in 1964, because I was still, how old was I? I was 11 then. And I can remember the first time we got on the ferry and we were able to go up on the top deck for the very first time. And I thought that was just the wildest thing. Yep. But prior to that, we weren't allowed to go beyond a particular deck.
Isn't that amazing that you actually remember? When I was very, very little, and I told the story in one of my videos. When I was very, very little, and I didn't know at the time, there was a giant fence where we lived. Giant fence. I couldn't see over it. And I talked about this, and I won't be very long because I know we need to get to questions. I remembered it, and I didn't really get it because it was different than all the other fences. It was huge and tall and thick, and I couldn't see over it, and I didn't know what was over there. And one day there was a hole in it, little hole in it, and I peeked through. I was like, hey, it's like a whole other civilization. Brown people, bunch of brown people. And I didn't know I didn't know at the time that they were brown people, but I didn't care. I was like, come on over. So we got I must have been 4 or 5, because it was in the day when you just, and I said, come play. So they snuck under and they played with us all day long. And I was like, this is awesome. And we played all day. And then they went back. We said, okay, see you tomorrow. Because, you know, stupid, naive kid. We didn't see him tomorrow. No, the hole's gone. And I looked back. I'm like, that was redlining. That had to be.
Well, redlining was actually the bankers did that. That may have been a physical manifestation of it.
I think it was because it was.
But redlining was actually a process
right,
by
yeah,
mortgage brokers and bankers to create ghettos. It was actually the creation of ghettos because they would literally redline maps and lead let's say like Black people into these neighborhoods. It's like you can't go here, but you can go here.
Right, but the thing
and
is,
that way you concentrate the Black people in one area. Yeah.
That line right
that
there
line
was
of a red line.
It was all the doctors and lawyers were on here, all the doctors and lawyers on the little cul-de-sac, and then underneath there were little teeny, like it looked like another world. That's why I think that was redlining. You know, that was in the sense that was a barrier that people put up so they could have nice houses and they wouldn't have to be, you know, bothered with seeing all those. Like, that's what I meant by redlining. Like,
I got you.
That was the thing. And 50 years later, I'm like, I think I saw it like redlining. I didn't know at the time. I was like, I was just a kid. I just wanted to play. But, you know, this stuff's...
Or the result of...
Yeah, somebody must have said, well, this is a nice area, but they'll never move here, if you know. So they put this massive wall up, and it went so long you couldn't walk around it even. I mean, you probably could, but I was a little kid. I was like 4 or 5, but yeah, it kind of hit me. Okay. You got me all excited and like telling you all this stuff. You're just like, it's all these discoveries. Let me see. Trump is not kitchen politics. Trump is not president. To me, he is a motivational speaker for racists and misogynists.
Hates Trump, man.
Kitchen politics. I love it. Kitchen politics. I love you.
I do too. I hate him too. I have to blot him out sometimes, though.
I have a secret to tell you.
I literally have to blot him out of my mind.
The first 2 weeks that he was in office, I got a visceral reaction when I saw his picture on a magazine. I got sick and I turned him all over. I just couldn't look at him. I couldn't hear his voice. I was pissed. I was really pissed. I was like enraged. I don't know. Kitchen politics, we know. Okay, so learn social justice is sticking to this point. So a Black person can't uphold a system of racism, like the Black managers that cracked the whip on the plantations. Do you want to... Do you want me to reread that?
I'm trying to understand the context there. Say that again.
I'll read it to you again because I kind of whipped through it. Learning social justice is asking, so a Black person can't uphold a system of racism like the Black managers that cracked the whip on the plantation.
No. Because those same Black managers that cracked the whip at the plantation got the whip cracked on them.
Exactly. They were just maybe...
They were doing what they had to do. They weren't doing it out of any choice.
Right. Yeah.
They were slaves.
Yeah, it was okay.
They either did it or died.
Yeah, they did it or they too would be...
They either did it or died.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
no, Black people do not uphold the system.
Unless they have a gun to their head. I mean, like these guys, they had a gun to their head.
We may inadvertently support the system of racism, the system of white supremacy.
Yeah.
I mean, there are any number of Black people who, for whatever their reasons are, support the system of white supremacy, maybe because it pays them well, and there's no one, or
they feel like they're with them, kind of like I'm good too,
because, say, in the case of some of the older Black leaders, it has been their bread and butter.
Okay.
And in order for them to continue in whatever it is that they have to inadvertently support that which they are supposedly fighting against, because then if they succeeded, there would be no reason for them to be or do what they do. But to suggest that that's I'll give you another example. Because I know that white people will say this, that Black people owned slaves in Africa.
That's one of the excuses they say.
Black people used to sell the slaves. Yes, they did. It was about the money.
Right.
It was about the money.
Right.
It didn't mean that they were any.
They believed in it like the system.
Yeah, it wasn't because they believed in the ideology.
Or they had power in the
It
system.
was money. And understand that slavery in Africa was different than slavery in America.
I try to explain that sometimes to the white folks.
Because the slavery in Africa sometimes looked a lot like indentured servitude.
Right. It wasn't chattel slavery.
The difference in America was the dehumanization of the African American slave.
Yeah.
And the commoditization.
And you take their babies and their every generation
it was the and a lot of white people only talk in terms of chattel slavery. They only talk in terms of cotton and the picking and the this. Slavery was so much more than that, because black people became, in essence, ATM cards. They were investments on Wall Street.
Wall Street, yeah.
So when it was no longer allowed, the passage from Africa to the United States was outlawed. There became the desire and the need to create more commodity.
I know.
And that's why you had the breeding, the studying.
Yep, breeding farms. I'm doing a video on it, and it's
and
awful.
The separation of families.
They needed more.
Yeah.
And we don't read about that in our high school.
Because they were investments, black people became like dollars, became like, if you had 3 slaves, that was value. There was a value to us, even though we were devalued as human beings.
Right.
We were valuable as commodities.
Right. It was still an investment in property, and
we weren't just brought here to pick the cotton and the tobacco. We were turned into virtual investments
on Wall Street. Right. That's one of the videos I'm going to do soon. It's a hard video for me to do. I want white folks to know the real.
Yeah.
I'm going to put those things in it.
They'll throw a piece of a cotton bale up there, or as a mockery or something like that, and when really what they ought to be doing is getting some education on the rate of African American slaves by the slave masters, and also the breeding and studying, and the that term MFer.
Yep, oh yeah, that's going to be in there too.
Yep, because that came from, you'd be surprised how many words come from enslavement and are a direct result of the enslavement.
Yeah, I didn't do a video on it because that's going to be in my video. I'm going to do the farms, I'm going to do the MFer, I'm going to do everything.
Yeah, I have my direct descendant, Dicey. Isn't that interesting? Her name was Dicey Spraggins. Was a slave, and she was raped repeatedly by Dr. Spraggins, who was a very, very wealthy doctor, and supposedly owned a lot of land in Virginia, and I think it was something Church, Virginia, something. I have the info on it.
Disgusting.
And had a huge, his sons were doctors, and so Dr. Spraggins repeated, she was his, so he just repeatedly raped her, and eventually out of that rape came my ancestor, Cordelia, my other ancestor, Cordelia, and so I had that dubious distinction. I always say, well, I got that dubious distinction that but for the rape of my ancestor, I would not be here.
Yeah.
So how do you thank your slave?
How do you reconcile with that? Yeah. That's the white folks don't get it. They don't even get the lower.
This is what they need to be thinking about.
Yeah, I think
this is the kind of stuff that they need to be thinking about, and not just tote that barge, let that bail, because it was so
Yeah,
much deeper than that.
Dr. Cindy, I read a couple weeks back
Hmm.
about some ingenious ways that these women who were forced to be in this enslaved status, what they did to try to avoid getting pregnant when they were being raped over and over and over. And they came up with some stuff. A lot of people, a lot of white folks go, well, they should have tried harder to escape that. They, oh my gosh, if you really read and you really learn the history,
There is actually a
they
story
were
that's
fighting
very
every minute.
interesting. I'm gonna here again. I'm gonna look for this book. You can go ahead. I'm
Okay.
gonna find this book, and I'm gonna mention this book to you.
Because people need
It's
to know.
Yeah, it's actually written by a slave, and it chronicles her life as a slave, and it chronicles her life with the slave master and what she ended up having to do, which was not really easy for a lot of people to manage to do to save themselves. Hold on one second. Let me get that
Yeah, because
book.
I just want, the reason I brought it up was because a lot of the things I hear is, oh, they should have done, read your history.
Yeah.
They were not passive. They were doing everything in their human power
Oh,
to fight.
here's one called "They Were Her Property: White Women as Slave Owners in the American South." That's another book that I always tell people is required reading. White people, it's required reading. You should
Hmm.
really read that. It talks about how white women slave masters would teach their children as early as 3 years old in the art of managing their slaves, because with the thought that one day they would own these slaves. So they would teach their 3-year-old children how to beat the slave until
It's
it was bleeding.
disgusting. Yeah, disgusting. Wow. Okay.
So I'm trying to find this
Yeah, I'll
book.
keep
Right?
I'll keep moving along
Yeah.
here.
Hmm. And I'm going to find this book by.
Regarding structural racism, this is from Kid Politics. Everything he tried to change, Republicans blocked. Cut the. He's talking about President Obama. Yeah, I believe, if I'm wrong, don't hate me for it. Kitchen politics, but yeah, Oh, cut the shit tonight, please. Oh, ooh, sorry. Okay. Well, you know what? We're here to learn, and not everyone's at that same level.
Somebody said cut the shit tonight.
Well, I think what I know kitchen politics very well. I think what he's referring to is,
Oh, it's a guy.
yeah, it's a boy, it's a man.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's a man.
So some things he's having a difficult time understanding.
No, he's not. He's just a little bit upset because one of the other viewers is
Oh.
questioning
Oh.
Obama, and it's disturbing because
Oh, okay. I
yeah, that's
got you.
okay.
I got you. Because they're talking with each other as
They are
well.
talking with each other, exactly.
Like I do when
Um,
I'm on here.
no, this is no, it's great though. I love it.
Hmm.
Stevie with his income tax issue. Okay, that's talking about. So we're so behind, and I'm not reading that because we don't. I'm not. Yeah, I'm gonna pass that. Keisha. Now I don't know if you're still here, Lakeisha. She wanted to know. Oh, this must have been like an hour ago. Oh my gosh, don't hate me. She wanted to know if you could raise your mic up, but
Who, me?
yeah, but that was probably an hour
I'm
ago.
I'm actually already
You're as high as you can. Okay.
as high as I can go. Yeah, I could talk a little louder if that helps.
Okay. While you're looking for that, both of us, Dr. Cynthia and your soccer mom. 157 Republicans voted against renewing the Violence Against Women Act. Can you explain why any female would ever vote GOP for any office on any level ever again?
I can't answer that.
I can't
I
either.
honestly can't answer that question because to that would presuppose that I know what's going on in all of those individual minds of those individual people.
Yeah.
So I have no clue. But for myself, I can't see how any woman would.
I agree with you 100%.
For
It's
myself,
it's
if it's
it's
just
deranged.
myself.
It's
Yeah.
self-hatred. I have no idea. Maybe they don't feel like they deserve actual equality of some sort or equity or I don't know. Good question. We all wish we knew. It's when I see stuff like that, I'm like, I'm out. I'm out. I don't know. I can't. Okay. Oh, Jamie! He might be gone now since it's been so long. Jamie, hi Kimberly. I'm still blocked on Facebook and messaging you happy birthday. Thank you, Jamie. You're such a sweetheart. Anastasia. Ah. Okay. Hey, SJW and happy slate. I didn't know you were here. I'm happy you're here. My goodness, it's probably like an hour ago. I am so bad. Lakeisha, white people are responsible for our very lives, past and present. Well, any of the bad parts, absolutely. I mean, we.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's good. We love our white supremacy. It's more than we love ourselves. Even it's.
I mean, I'm gonna have to find that, and then when I do, I will. I'll have to find it, and then I'll message you, and then on.
Okay. Oh yeah, we'll add it right on. Dr. Cynthia, can you learn social justice? The question again is Larry Elder and Jesse Lee Peterson racist against blacks? Is that?
I'm not familiar with those people.
Yeah, I'm not either. Which
I'm
isn't
not
saying
familiar
much.
with the people.
Yeah.
Are they white?
If they're, I don't know. Yeah, he'll have to. Maybe he'll come back in and later and do something. Kitchen politics. I won't argue with that. Hillary Rodham Clinton said that Hillary Rodham Clinton said to lock up black men because they act like animals. Her husband signed 3 strikes and you're out laws. That was racist. Biden voted yes. Agree 100% on that. They must be talking to somebody.
See, people need to understand that racism is no respecter of political affiliation.
Right. Yeah. That's.
It just is that the Southern strategy was real during Nixon's time, and that there was a concerted effort to bring the Democrats who were the racists over to the Republican Party, and that's pretty much how it began. And then, of course, 2010 it was solidified. But yeah, I mean, it all started with the Southern strategy that brought the most of the Southern Democrats over to the Republican side, because many of them already felt the same in terms of policy, and so policy versus ideology meshed. But you still have people in the Democratic Party who they Manchin. He's a blue dog Democrat. He is what's called a racist Democrat. He's someone who does not believe in Republican policies, but he's still a racist.
But he's all for being racist, right? I mean, it's completely.
But he's still a white supremacist. I kind of like throw that out there, as opposed to sometimes I want to keep it within that context of white supremacist, as opposed to racist, because now racist is individual, and we try to claim that it's structural as well, but it's white supremacy is the ideology that is at the root of the entire thing.
Of the structure, you mean?
The ideology is the belief system.
Yeah.
Racism is the structure through the institutions. It's the structural system through institutions. Yeah,
a lot of people say to me, I've heard over and over from most of my friends who are black, they say Democrats just as bad. And I think maybe what they're saying is, I mean, with the fake liberals and the people who you want to be at the rally, but
you can be a liberal and still be supremacist.
You're not inviting a black person to your house, but sure, you'll pretend to be. It's disingenuous. It's just there's a lot. God, this stuff's complicated. But yeah, so it's not. Republicans.
I say, listen, political affiliation is no respecter of racism and white supremacy.
Yeah, but with Trump's new kind of like racism on steroids, it's really kind of
like
changed.
White supremacy on steroids.
Yeah, it's right. It's really taken some.
Because he's taken it beyond just racism. He's taken it into xenophobia.
Oh, he's
and he's taken nationalism.
That
exceptionalist nationalism type thing. He's gone well beyond just racism.
And people get real mad at me when I say, I'm sorry, if you support a racist person like Trump, then you yourself are racist, and I will not take that back. I might not be using the right words, but it's not.
If you support it either directly or indirectly, consciously or unconsciously. if it's unconscious, then you need to unpack it. You need to think about it. You need to say, let me bring a couple of things to my conscious mind. Why is it that I think that Black people are inherently criminal?
I just think by definition, if you support the man in the White House, then you can't have you. People don't get that though. Let me see. Learn social justice. Mr. S.F. Black. Learn social justice. Larry Elder and Jesse Lee Peterson are what we call house slaves. So thank you, Mr. F.S. Black. He's helping him explain. And somebody from Tweets 13
there's no such thing as a house slave anymore.
Yeah.
That's figurative, and it's also demeaning.
He meant it figuratively.
They are inadvertent supporters of white supremacy.
Yeah, he meant it figuratively, and he's trying to teach him.
They inadvertently support white supremacy. I like to try to have people really pay attention to the words that they use. That's what's important. You have to understand that these people are not coons, they're not Negropeans, they're Black people who, for whatever their reason, have decided that they would rather live within the system of racism.
That helps me.
And they will support white supremacy.
For whatever reason,
there are some Black people who believe that white is right. They've been indoctrinated so deeply. See, it goes both ways.
That just breaks my heart, but I know I see
Black people who believe so deeply that white people are the best. They do the best work.
They've bought it, and it's so sad. But I mean,
they make the best politicians. They are more educated. I mean, it is what it is. These are things, facts.
Well, right.
But to call them, I always try to refrain from calling them names.
Yeah,
like that, because
you're being more.
It's counterproductive.
Yeah, and I know what he was trying to say, but what you're saying, I believe, is let's call it exactly what it is. They are supporting white supremacy, and
for whatever their reason. Just like I don't support it.
Right. And for me, people are always asking me on this show. It's so funny. They're always saying, so what do you think of these Black people who are, and I say, that's not my place.
Because they have their reasons for supporting it.
Exactly. And it's not my place.
If you really want to know,
go ask them.
Find out.
Well, people
drop them a line.
Yeah.
Why do you support white supremacy?
Well, they ask me what I think about it, and I think nothing because
what do you think about it? There are Black people who believe that racism no longer exists.
I know.
And they believe that color blindness meant that you didn't see black.
Yeah.
Nothing could be further.
I had one on my YouTube channel, and telling me off that
blindness was the act of white disappearing. This is why white people get upset when the word white is used, because they became complacent with the idea of normal, neutral, natural, mainstream.
I gotcha. Oh, you are so good. You are good. I better keep going here. So thank you, Mr. F.S. Black. Thank you for trying to explain. And all she's really trying to say is that to refrain from. She's into language, and
it's kind of, we have to be a little more mindful of how we express ourselves when we are describing
a Black
people who look like us.
Yeah, and you know what? People are so funny with me, because on my stuff, I won't put something bad about a Black person. I won't do it, because that's not.
There's enough of it out there.
There's enough of it out there. It's like. No, I don't. Yeah, once in a while there'll be something that's like, wow. Well, I'm not putting it up. Nope. It's not because I don't think they did it or whatever. It's because no.
Because unless and until people are treated, unless and until Black people are able to be treated as individuals, we're not. What happens with one white people becomes the same thing for all. Yep. I mean, what happens for one Black person becomes all Black.
Yep.
People. And that hasn't stopped.
And additionally,
until that does. When Black people are able to express and have that that benefit or privilege of individuality,
Right.
then it's okay.
That's funny. I didn't know why I did it, but that's probably why. Another reason I do it is because, okay, and this, I don't know if this is going to make sense, Dr. Cynthia, but for me, I have never been under that system. So I don't know how I would act. Maybe I'd be a criminal too. Maybe I'd be pushed down so hard and so hurt that I would, like, I don't know.
You'd be surprised. See, this is the fallacy. The fallacy is that the majority of Black people are criminals, and that there are just a few Black people. No, this is the fallacy. This is what's believed, okay? That the majority of Black people are criminals, and that there are a few Black people who are not. When the opposite.
It's the opposite. True. Yeah.
The opposite is true, but that is not what's portrayed, because to do that would dissolve.
That would risk everything for the white people.
It would dissolve the concept and the ideology. That would contribute to dissolving that concept of
great point.
Superiority, skin-based superiority.
Yeah, because
this is why you know what? This is why you'll see when horrific things happen in white neighborhoods, the first thing that they will do, they'll put someone up there that says, "This never happens here. I don't understand."
It's those people.
This is not, we've never had, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
You know what I mean? And
oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but see, that's because the reality, if the reality was really all you have to do is look at investigation discovery, and you know that it is very common for white people to engage in crime with each other.
Well, is that the reason people like to use black on black crime? Because they're trying to say, well, they all are criminals, and is that why Trump also?
Why. That's the only reason why it is.
I get that all the time. It's such bullshit.
Black people, again, they fall into this bag of belief.
Yep.
Because I mean, the fact is, we do live. A lot of Black people do live in areas, neighborhoods that are ridden with crime, just crime ridden.
But isn't that because of redlining and all the other? I mean,
it's because of all of those things. Yeah. Absolutely, generational.
Yeah, but I talked about it in my thing.
Generational denial.
Yep.
Of opportunity, equity, equality, and justice.
Yeah, that's what that was in my little rant. Yeah. So people, they don't get it, and because
it's as though they think that Black people want to live this way.
Well, you know what? When I was a little girl, I didn't get taught any of this stuff. Obviously, I was kind of, I won't get into it, but I couldn't figure it out. When I was like 9, I'm like, why do Black people want to live together in areas that are really rough? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense, because I had Black friends.
I live like that.
I didn't get it. I'm like, why would they do that? Because no one taught me that. Like, I was like, it just doesn't make sense. But then I was like,
if you were denied opportunity to make a decent living.
Well, I know now what happened, but I mean, when I was a little kid, I was like, I didn't know. White people are not educated. It's like, it's not enough.
They are, but they're educated in the belief that it's because of the inferiority of
right. And
that they live in squalor, and that they live the way that they live.
Right. But nobody taught me.
If these things, if systemic racism was not in place, then it would just obliterate the fallacy of white supremacy, and they
have to keep it right.
It's going. It has to keep going.
Yeah.
Because in order for it to keep, it has to keep going, because that's the way that they keep white people under control economically. Because if white people and Black people united just on the basis of that economic class,
if they ever united,
every time, I mean, that's what Martin Luther King was about to do, and they got him quick. They bammed him up real quick, because he was about to have a poor people's march.
Michelle Alexander, I think is her name, who wrote The New Jim Crow. She talks about that all the time in her book.
Oh yeah.
Every time.
He was about to make some moves he was already getting into the Vietnam War, and so he had a lot of young people and educated people who were coming to his side. And then he was beginning to get poor people, union workers, white people who
Mm-hmm.
were listening
Catching on.
and catching on about the
Yep.
economic
That
part.
maybe we need to.
Well, that's what Bernie Sanders is trying to do, and Warren, what she's trying to do. They're trying to
Yeah,
appeal
Elizabeth Warren.
to the economic caste. They're
Mm-hmm.
trying to appeal to that aspect and trying to unite people that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're all in this boat together.
Yeah, and
But see,
that's
but the thing is, we are all in this boat together economically, but we're still not all in the same boat as it relates to the other institutions.
Yep.
See, that's where the institutional racism comes in. White people are only subjugated through economics. We're subjugated through economics, law, labor, religion,
and
politics,
yep.
everything,
Mm-hmm.
every area of human activity.
Right.
Are
It's
subjugated.
is infiltrated. Yeah. That's the thing. In a lot of my videos, I try.
That's the difference. That's why white people can't. That's why they don't have a reference point beyond economics.
Yep. Yeah. It's so easy to be blind and white. It just. It's like you don't even have to be a bad person. You just have to kind of not get it. I wish my parents had told me. Like I tell my kids, I say, "Oh yeah, that area. I'll show them right on the map. I'll say this was red line, and I teach them exactly. They get it. You know, my parents would go, and I'll blame them. They didn't. I mean, I blame them. Okay, I do blame
when
them.
they redline those areas, those are the areas where they would not allow them to get mortgages.
Yep.
They couldn't get home improvement loans.
No.
So if you can't improve your home and keep your home up, your home is going to dilapidate. I mean, that is just and let's not forget the fact that
Tax
the
base.
majority of those homes in those areas were not even owned by black people because they couldn't own property.
Right.
So they were renters.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who owned them were white and were slumlords.
Yep.
So they didn't take care of their own property and let their own property dilapidate.
And there's so much to it too. Like our tax, the way our school taxes are. What a cycle of poverty. That's cruel. The way, you know what I'm talking about? The way we do taxes now.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is experiencing some really raunchy stuff right now, where our taxes have gone up. We've been assessed again. And at the same time, they have a program because Philadelphia is just gentrifying all over the place. The suburbs are becoming too expensive to live. Okay. Taxes in the outlying suburbs of Philadelphia are as much as $9,000 and $10,000 a year.
Yeah.
And they're getting really close to New Jersey's. And so they're coming into the city because the city is prime real estate. So they're moving a lot of black people out. And what they do is they're creating all this new construction. And there is a program in place called the 10-year tax abatement, which means that when these white people come into the city and they buy these newly constructed homes, they don't have to pay taxes for 10 years. Now, when you understand that taxes are what control the money coming into the school system, it ends up on the backs of the poor black people who still live here.
I think it's criminal how we have the tax system, personally.
So they don't pay taxes for 10 years. I mean, and in about 5 or 6 years, they generally move out of those newly constructed homes. They sell them and they move into another newly constructed home. So they never have to pay taxes.
It's wow.
Property tax.
I'm gonna grab. This nation's got issues. Let me just read a couple more. Twiz 13, I think I said great reading from the doctor. I am way behind.
Thank you.
And let me see. Michael is talking about peach pie right now. True story. I'm hungry. Okay. And
I am too. I had dinner. It is late.
No, I know. We can wrap this up whenever you want.
No. I'm having a good time.
I'm having a great time.
I'm enjoying this because I love you.
Oh, thank you. This is so good for me. I'm learning.
And to be here on your birthday too. That makes it even extra special.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you. Oh my gosh. When you wrote me like really late last night, like you were up, I was like, she's up? How could she be up?
I'm always
I
up.
know you are. I watched your.
Because I'm retired, I can sleep during the
You
day.
can see, yeah. Oh my goodness. Let me see. Whoa, we just got, oh, we have a lot of, okay, I'm going to move on. I'm blabbing too much. I need to move on because we have people talking. Oh my goodness.
That's the thing. I say I want to. I want to. I want to. I don't want to change your minds. I just want to open them.
Oh, it's awesome. Oh, I've lost my spot. Let me try again. Oh, okay. I'm trying to get back because when people add their comments, it scrolls it, and then I lose my. No.
I remember that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. And I must tell everyone ahead of time, like in the last time, I if it's a comment that I'm not comfortable reading, in the sense that when I say it, it's like kind of coming from me, I'm skipping it. No offense to anybody, but
why?
Well,
I know it's not coming from you.
Well, it's, you know what? It's kind of weird. There's some things I just won't say. And I'm like, not good.
Bad, huh?
Yeah. I'm not saying that. I gotta draw the line somewhere, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, I ran into problems with that. But I know that people respect that, and I'm way out there. I'll say a lot. Okay, let me find my spot here. Sorry about that. Angry soccer mom for president? Thank you.
Nice.
You must be joking, right? Thank you. Very cute.
You can do it. Hey, if Trump could do it,
you know what?
That means, I mean,
exactly what
better than he is.
We have a freaking moron in the White House.
Could actually run and win.
You know what?
You know it's all about money anyway. You'd have to have like millions.
Oh, you have to be right. I said to, I don't know who was it I said to? I said, you know what? The one good thing about Trump is he made it so everyone thinks they can be president now.
Yeah.
If he can be president, my God. Superb Preach family from Twists 13 Empress. Neil. I'm not sure if he's still here because he's not feeling well. I'm concerned that racism is.
You're looking, I found the book.
Oh, you found it?
It's by Harriet Jacobs, and it's called Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl.
Oh, wow.
That book.
Sounds intense.
It is. Trust me. I cried. I cried a long way through it. But it's one of those books that you can't put down.
You have to live it.
But it gives you an inside look. And as a white person, I think that it's one of those things, you know, you'd have to be very knowing about how cognitive dissonance works. You really have to take maybe 20 deep cleansing breaths to realize just how barbaric it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It changes you. The book literally changes you.
Yes. Like I tell, and I don't know if this is what you're talking about, Dr. Cynthia, but when you learn these, just first you learn, you know, the social construct part of it. Then you learn all the history. It's life changing. It's like riding first class. You will never go back.
Never go back?
No.
You can't.
You can't. You know the truth.
You can't unlearn.
Yep.
And I think that's what is frightening for a number of white people, is because they know that once you know, you can't go back.
You can't. You know. Yep.
And then it becomes, well, what do I do? What can I do?
Mm-hmm.
You begin to feel very guilty about it all. And then you get defensive and you say, yeah, but it wasn't me.
Right. That's where it's really, really hard. Because what I say to people, and I say this over and over.
But guess what? A black person feels the same way when they see something on television, and when white people want to say that's the way that all black people are, we want to be able to say, but that's not me.
That's not me. Exactly.
And have it be accepted.
Exactly. It's, oh my gosh, that's a fantastic point. And one of my groups that I came up with many years ago was just for that, for people in majority, I know that's a terrible term, groups, in every majority group. I'm talking, heterosexual, every single group, people who were middle income, everybody who kind of had it going gets to meet somebody who they'd never meet in their entire life, ever.
And actually talk to them.
And actually talk and become friends. And it is something I'm so proud of. The people. I have seen people who literally were raised by a clan father. And now they're friends with Muslims, they're friends with Jewish people, they have black friends. I'm not just talking friends. I mean, they go to their houses. Mm-hmm. You don't when you meet a friend and you become close friends, mm-hmm. people don't let their close friends get bullied. And it's just, I love this group. Anyway, shut up now. It just, because it can happen. I've seen it over the years. It's slow. Oh my God, is it slow? But it can happen. It can happen. I've seen it. In fact,
that was the whole thing behind segregation. See, God forbid we actually get to know one another and be around one mm-hmm. another. Yeah, segregation was a tool just like color. You know what I'm saying? That's what segregation was about. It wasn't necessarily about, because that whole separate but equal thing was a lie.
Well, right, the whole thing, if they intermarry, then
they wanted white people to believe it was separate but equal, but it wasn't, because the mechanisms of the institutions of racism were still intact during segregation.
Separate but equal, what a joke.
Still existed, but it was important that they keep us separated from each other, because why? Because
we might like each other.
Realize, and you say, yeah, and you say, oh my goodness,
You go borrow a cup of sugar, and then pretty soon they're giving you a recipe, and pretty soon you're friends, and then you're like, mm-hmm. you're just like me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because just think about it. Like with all of these mass killings going on by some white people.
White men.
Black people could very well get into that bag that white people get into and say, all white people are mass killers.
I do. No, just kidding. I'm kidding.
But we don't. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's why it becomes so frustrating mm-hmm. for Black people that white people still do it.
Some of my Black friends and we do joke privately, like, white men are all the molesters, white men are all the terrorists and shooters. I mean, we do joke privately because it's like, mm-hmm. but right, Black folks aren't,
we making don't do that stuff.
Right.
We don't do any of that stuff. We don't do whiteface, or we don't do the
exactly.
kind of things that are done. Like we don't. Yep. And for white people that say like you guys need to get over it. Well, why don't you stop? Mm-hmm. Why don't you stop discriminating? Mm-hmm. Why don't you stop mm-hmm. putting that foot on our neck?
When I say
from succeeding.
When I say people who say to me, "Get over it," and I'm trying to educate them. Mm-hmm. I'd say, and I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, I'd say that is pretty much like a wife beater saying, get over it, while he's smacking her in the face. Mm-hmm. I go, it's still happening. Get over it. You don't get over something that is happening now. Mm-hmm. So I get enraged.
It's like, stop being like you being. Stop behaving like you behaving. Stop. Did you see the one about did you see the picture of the game commentator just doing his job, and this white dude comes up with that what is it, that symbol, the white supremacist symbol. Yeah, it's actually in the picture. When you get on Facebook, if you get on my page, I actually saw.
This little thing,
Yeah, it's got a lot of different meanings, but it has been appropriated by white supremacists as their gang symbol. Mm-hmm. And
it's terrifying.
That's what I call it, gang symbol. And so there's this image of this gang symbol.
Oh yes, like, I saw it. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, stop doing that stupid.
I know.
Okay, just stop it.
It's just the whole thing.
You want us to stop talking about racism? Can you stop?
You first, and then we'll stop.
Dismantle the system that keeps us down.
That's what I tell them. I say so I tell the people that I'm working with, you can do something. You can educate yourself and use your white privilege to support voices of black people, to support leaders who have a set, they have a plan, and they're really going to do it.
Those privileges are institutional privileges. Those are the ones that say that you don't have to worry about being beat up by police officers.
When a police,
right. That's the law, criminal justice institution. You politically
benefit of the doubt.
I mean, in every one of the institutions, I don't know whether you saw it. I created this tree, and at the bottom I put white supremacy, which is the root, and then on the side, the trunk of the tree, I said that was the institution of racism, and then the branches, or actually the branches were the institutions. The trunk was the system itself, and then the branches were the institutions, and the leaves were black people.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'll take a look at that.
It's one of those things where if well, I lost my point.
No, you're good. I love your stuff. I'm just overwhelmed with because I have so many different things I'm doing. It's like,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm insane.
Like I said, we'll get to talking and forget to.
Yeah, no. I'm overwhelmed in the sense that I'd love to check out more of your stuff because I'm so blown away by how brilliant you are. And no, I'm not kidding. I don't
think all the dang time.
I don't say that about anybody.
Thinking. Sometimes I want to shut it off, but I can't.
Oh my goodness. Well, we will have to. Let me see. Want to go through a couple more of these, or I don't want to keep you for too long. I know it's getting late.
Cool.
Okay. Neil, I'm concerned that racism is only going to get worse if we continue to become more and more divided, and the division is also within the white community. Oh, yes, it is. Yeah. What do you think? I mean.
But see, you have to. If you came in on this late, you have to realize that racism racism can't get much worse as an institution.
Right. He's afraid of a race war.
That is born out of racism.
Yeah, he means that. I know Neil's a really close friend of mine.
I'm just trying to break it down. You know me, I've got to break down the
you're
words
doing good.
that are being used. So
yeah,
that,
right.
Because if you don't, then people begin to think, oh, well, racism is all about the people necessarily, or about individual behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In this case, the institutions can't get any worse, but the behavior. And you're absolutely right, because the actual division is being promulgated by or the behavior is by white people toward black people, if that's and others. But in my case, I'm mostly interested in racism, not xenophobia or the other.
Right.
Things.
But one of my pages does that, and then one does
on racism and black.
Yep.
African American descendants of the enslavement.
Yep.
I hear you. And in that case, yes, the behavior can get worse because it's always had the propensity for violence. All you have to do is look at history. There's a book called At the Dark End of the Street by Danielle McGuire, which talks about women and how Rosa Parks. I think I may have even typed that out as a thing one time on one of your shows. Rosa Parks was much more involved in the movement of many movements, but in the movement for black women to own their own bodies, because as late as the 1950s, black women still didn't own their own bodies, and white men could literally come into a black person's home in front of the husband, pull the white woman out, do whatever he wanted to do with her, and then maybe send her back home.
Yep. No, I hear. It's
coming home from church, you could get raped.
It's terrifying.
Buses were chiefly ridden by black women, and black bus drivers had the ability, or just plain old, they could do this because there would be nothing that would happen to them. They could pull black women off the bus and beat them unmercifully if they didn't want them sitting in particular seats or whatever, or for whatever reason
Yeah,
they may
yeah.
decide that they want to beat up the black woman, because you could do that. I mean, it was so bad that that was the reason Rosa Parks got on that bus and sat there on purpose. That's why. And that's why she got arrested. It was because she was fighting for black women to own their own bodies.
Yep. Very. Oh,
That's who
God, I'm
that was
learning
for.
so much
She
from
wasn't
you.
just tired from working and
Right.
no,
And shouldn't have to.
that's
Right.
what it's taught.
So,
So the book is called At the Dark End of the Street, and it's by Danielle L. McGuire, and it is a must read to understand what went on during that early part of the various movements for freedom, justice, equality, equity, and opportunity in
the
America.
details matter. These things matter.
Hmm.
Like, I love hearing all this. I love it. It's amazing. So yeah, I think I'm just saying. I believe Neil was talking about like a race war in that we really
In that
have
sense.
we really haven't come to terms. White folks, we've never faced the truth about the Civil War. We just what, nothing. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Mhm.
I think he's afraid, and
For some reason, white people think that in order to be who they are, it has to be at the expense of black people.
I don't get it.
And that's never been the case, and that hasn't been the case. And with black people don't think like that. This is not the way we think. So if white people think that this is the way we think, it is projection.
It's projection, and projection is so huge in the white. I mean, just ask Trump. Everything he says is what he does. It's like every time he says.
Doesn't that kill you when he says things? It's like, man, you're talking
about yourself. Exactly. Everything he says, I'm like, no, that's what you do, you little imbecile. Oh, it makes me so mad. Kills me. Yep, God, I'm so happy that you get. Oh, okay. More questions. This is from Tweezer13. Those who forget history are condemned to repeat it.
That is so true, because we are living in.
Look at us.
We're living not only in the days of Nixon, but we are also living in the days of Hitler as well.
You know what I post all the time, Dr. Cynthia? I post, you know what? If you ever wondered what it felt like to be in Nazi Germany pre-Hitler taking over, I said, you don't have to wonder anymore. We're living it. Stop wondering.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh, I'm like,
anybody remember that national emergency?
Yeah. Do you know what he could have done with that national emergency?
Well, you know what it was. It was a test.
Mm-hmm.
It was a test, just like the national emergency text message. Remember that one?
No,
These are the precursors.
He's going to have a national emergency.
These are the tests for when he decides
He wants to be king.
To actually do that thing.
Yeah. And
that he has been intimating and implying for the last year and a half, 2 years.
Dr. Cynthia, when he started doing all this stuff, I looked up the actual documents that showed what he can do. Actually, Neil and I did it together. His powers, it's terrifying. He can close our borders. He can take our, for our safety.
He can literally suspend the Constitution if he so chooses.
Yep. And he's, people don't get this. This man is dangerous.
Don't get it. They don't get it. I'm just happy.
They're going to get it.
That he doesn't read.
Okay. That's so fun. As a reading specialist.
There are still a few people in that White House that are not putting that bug in his ear. Thank God Bannon is gone. And the other character.
Yeah, did you just say he can't read, that he doesn't read? Is that what?
He doesn't read.
Yeah.
He doesn't read. Thank God.
As a reading specialist, I called it immediately.
Yeah. And nobody has put that bug in his ear yet. Because somebody put the bug in his ear for the national emergency.
Absolutely.
Somebody put the bug in his ear for the national text message. National emergency text message. But I'm so thankful nobody has yet put a bug in his ear about suspending the Constitution. He is, because he's already talking about a coup d'etat.
It's
if there was ever a coup d'etat, it happened in 2010.
This is crazy. This is just, I mean.
And it was solidified in 2016.
Exactly.
Well, January 20th, 2017.
Oh my God, you are hilarious. But true. It's only funny because I have to laugh instead of cry.
Instead of cry. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I think, Kim, sometimes, because I'm always thinking, and sometimes I just wish I could just limit my thinking to the Kardashians or somebody or Cardi B. For God's sake, I wish, I literally follow Cardi B and all the red, this Unwind with Tasha K and all these other people because they're so ridiculous. And I look at it and I think to myself, God, they're just so blissfully ignorant.
It must be so nice to be there.
I've never been blissfully ignorant.
Not gonna happen.
Why did I get this calling?
Yeah, you can't go back. You can't go back.
I can't go back though,
Yeah, it's funny because this has just like been a part of me since I was a little kid.
Well, wrong choice of words. I wish I could just, my head could just lean into pop culture and stay there.
That's so funny you say pop culture because I know nothing about pop culture. And people bring it up and I'm out.
Yeah, I tried. Because I go to the hairdresser.
I don't try. I don't have like that huge brain capacity. I got to keep it all for like all the really life and death stuff.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know.
I always end up there.
That's cool.
I always end up right back here.
You're an academic for sure. People, you got to read her reading. I mean, her writing. Bring a dictionary.
Oh yes.
Read it 3 times.
There was one time one of my dear friends now at first when she first started following me on my page. She read one of my posts and she says. Perhaps you should dumb it down. And I said, oh no, I can't do that. I will never dumb anything down because that presupposes that the people who are reading what I'm writing are stupid, and I'm not going to do that. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I'm trying to make you think.
Yeah.
That's the purpose. I'm trying to make you open up your mind and think critically about important subjects that you may not have considered. How about this perspective? You may not agree with it, but guess what? It's going in here. You're thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I won't dumb it down.
You're an academic.
Yes, please, when you get ready to read my stuff, bring your thesaurus.
Yep.
Or put it in thesaurus.com and dictionary.
Yeah, dictionary.com. Yeah.
On your tablet.
Yep.
And get ready to start throwing some words in there. Because when you finish, you're going to be a whole lot smarter.
Yep. That's why I always have questions when I read your stuff, and I'm always trying to okay, should I don't want to burden to you.
I encourage people, message me on Messenger. I don't really get on Messenger.
Well, I hate to be a burden to you,
all the churchy stuff I get and all of the we're friends and pass this along. I don't get on it for that. But
I get those 10 a day.
On my Messenger to ask me a question, I answer it.
No, you're amazing.
And I break it down because I do that with you too sometimes.
Yes.
I break it down. You'll get on there and you'll ask me something and then we'll discuss it. We'll text
I love it because I really want to get it. I don't just want to kind of get it.
I have a number of people that do that with me now.
Well, I always feel guilty because I feel like I'm making you do all this emotional work.
No, because at this point it's not emotional for me. It's emotional for you because it's you're coming to some realizations. Of connotations and things like that. What
very deep.
Mean. For me, remember, I've lived it all my life.
Yeah.
It's not new.
And also there's
I'm just able to articulate it. I'm able to.
Yeah, you're really, really good. And Dr. Cynthia, a lot of it is also to be
Dr. Cindy.
Dr. Cindy, part of it for me is I'm very, very sensitive to wanting to know I don't want to know it. I want to know it so I can teach it and be confident. And I want to know it so that I this is going to sound strange. I want to know it so that I feel it as much as a white person could feel, I want to
Then you,
get.
you have to read those books,
Yeah.
and you have to reread and reread
Yeah.
and reread sometimes,
Yeah.
because then it becomes ingrained. See, because you have to understand this other crap, that ideology has been redone and redone. What was that saying? If you say it enough times, you begin to believe it.
Ask Trump about that. Jeez.
Okay,
Yeah.
so at this, whoever coined that saying is right.
They knew what they were doing.
So
Yeah.
if you want to get a better understanding, then you go
Mm-hmm.
back and you reread some things.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you didn't quite understand what I meant in that essay, read it again.
Well, that's, what's funny is,
And then
yeah.
if it will come, you'll get a better understanding. And then you
Mm-hmm.
say, well, wait a minute, I don't understand that part. Read that part.
I read your stuff
Because
3
that's,
times.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, if you read it and read it, then each
Mm-hmm.
time you can get something from it that you didn't get before.
Mm-hmm.
It's like watching a movie a couple times. You know?
I'm like an Alzheimer's patient. When I watch a movie, I'm like, have I seen this? It's kind of scary.
Listen, I watch movies and then I watch them again. I have certain movies that I watch over and over, because each and every time that I watch it, there's something in it that I missed. The smallest thing, the slightest nuance.
Yep.
And that's the same thing with
Yeah.
my writing. It's something you might miss the first time,
Yep.
second pass.
Especially with your writing, because my writing's very, very low level.
But I'm going to tell you, honestly speaking, I am not writing at a collegiate level. This is what, no,
Seems
I
like
am
you.
not. I am not writing at a collegiate level. And that's the thing that scares a lot of people, because I am actually writing at about a 10th grade level. But when you understand that most people who have gone through the educational system today have not gone past the 5th grade in reading,
Yeah.
that's when it becomes
Newspapers are at 5th grade.
Yeah, I'm definitely not at a collegiate level. If you read my writing and then you read a scholar's writing, I mean listen, if you were to read something by my colleague Dr. Ford, then you'd say, oh, now that's a scholar.
Yeah.
I'm writing at a 10th grade level.
I've been out of the loop for a while. I got my master's way back in.
I saw that. Because you teach, right?
Yeah, it is I have a master's in special education and 3 credentials in language development and all that stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I taught in Compton during the LA riots.
Okay, there are a number of my cohorts who were involved in special education and did their dissertations on special education issues. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Mine was on group behavioral management.
Mm.
Go figure.
That's good.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Oh my gosh. Let me take a couple more of these. You are so fun to talk to. People are going to be like, Steph is sucking, angry at soccer mom. I talk too much, but I'm just.
All right, we get to forgetting that we got to be. I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry,
no, it's great. It's amazing. So let me see here. Okay, interesting. We have. Twiz 13 Empress says, that's right, white privilege for poor whites is slowly erasing.
That is true. It's not, no. See, here's the thing.
I'm not getting what he's saying.
I get it. I get what's being said here.
Okay, yeah, I don't get.
Privilege is not erasing. Economic.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have to understand, you're looking at this through the lens of the only thing you have experience in, which is the economic class caste.
Right.
So everything that you discuss, you're discussing from that vantage point. Case in point, when you see a black person, say, driving a Lexus, and you say, see, he's driving a Lexus, he got more privilege than I do. That's not it.
No, they don't get it.
You're only looking at it through the lens of the subjugation that you.
When the police pull him over. When the police.
So when you talk about privilege, no, white people are maintaining their privilege because they're not being brutalized by police.
Right. That guy in the whatever is going to be another black man.
Lynched. They're not being bullied through behavior They don't have to worry about getting bananas put in between the doorknobs, and they don't have to worry about getting signs on their garage saying niggas go
Saying,
home.
right.
You know, things like that.
They don't have to.
These privileges remain, but economically, you are suffering.
Yeah, you know.
That.
Yeah, great points.
You have to grapple with, because that is where you're being subjected. What's the word? You're being subjugated.
Subjugated, yeah.
That's where you are being subjugated, okay? You're losing your ability to sustain yourself economically. And why? Yeah. Because the people who look like you don't care about you.
And you think they do.
And you think they do.
You're working for them
like
for
people,
free.
You think they care about you because you are under the mistaken impression that white skin privilege, white skin based superiority really exists.
Yep.
It doesn't.
Precisely. Like, here's another example, maybe. You can tell me if this is kind of an example. Let's say I have a little girl who's brown, and she's pretty well off. Pretty darn well off economically. She's in a classroom with a whole bunch of, white kids. The statistics are saying, you tell me if this is right, she will be called on less. I don't care how rich she is, because that's in the system. So
absolutely, because the institution of education is one of the worst institutions where racism exists.
Oh, I have stories to tell you.
You have to understand that there was a time when it was against the law for black people to read and write.
Yep.
There was a law. Black people could be killed for reading a book.
Yep.
Something as simple as reading a book.
Some of the white folks don't know that, because I've told many. They're like, "What?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Even after the enslavement.
Oh yeah.
Something, I don't know who said this, but I'm sure it was a sentiment that was shared among a lot of white racists. Was that the worst thing that they could have ever done was to allow us to read and write.
Knowledge is power. Yeah.
So what had to happen was
that
the educational system had to be designed such that even though we know how to read and write, there's only so far we're going to be able to go with it.
Yeah, this is all purposeful.
That's that foot. That's that foot on the scale. That's that foot on the scale of the educational institution.
Well, even
within the system of racism, that white people don't have that problem, because that's in the racist piece. White people don't live in the system of racism. See, that's another thing I was under the impression, and I had to come to grips with that. No, white people live in their own system. There are two systems working. Two systems working. White people live in one, black people live in the other. Sometimes the economic part kind of intersects. And sometimes black people think that because they gain a measure of economic success, that somehow they have transcended racism.
Yeah, that's
because they
scary.
only think of it in terms of the post-racial colorblind period. Yeah. So they think of that period of time when we entered into and assimilated into the white economic class caste, and they think, okay, we out of racism, we in here now, we over here with the white people. That's not the case.
You see, Barack Obama's assistant was moving in. Remember that?
Case in point, Oprah Winfrey, rich is all get out, got money, not talking about economic
clout, money,
secure. Okay. She goes over to France to buy a pocketbook at Hermes, where she could literally buy her
store. She could buy the store.
She goes and knocks on the door, and they look at her and go, and just go and do what they're doing. Why? Because they think that she's just another black woman.
Yep.
They know that identification tool.
Yep. First thing you see.
Yeah. Well, that's why black was chosen as an identifier. See, remember in Nazi Germany, they had to create yellow stars to be sewn on their clothes in order to identify.
Because you can't tell, right?
Identification is key. It's a key tool.
Well, that's what Trump wanted to do for a while there when he wanted to put things on Muslim people. A little sicko that he is.
Mexicans, he wanted to stamp tattoos on the Mexicans.
Little sicko that they are, yeah.
Yep.
These people know what they're doing.
Understand, identification is good, is an excellent tool. And then why not? Why not add that added bonus of we can identify you and we better than you based on that same identifier?
Yeah. My head's spinning. People are
Right?
crazy. Ugh, it's insane. Let me
It
see
does.
here. Michael says no caps. I do not like it. Anton. Oh, Anton. The Nazi state of America never had a post-racial era or time in its entire existence. Of course
Yes, it
not.
did.
Oh, did
Yes,
you
it
hear?
did in America. Yes, it did.
It did?
That was the post-racial colorblind era.
Oh. He means kind of like, I'm guessing. He means we were our country was built on white supremacy.
Oh, well, yeah.
I think that's what
And
I
that
don't
is
know.
true. That is
Yeah.
true. But that doesn't mean that it didn't, that racism
But
as an institution and white supremacy as an ideology and a belief did not,
was it
didn't mean
gone?
that it existed. No, it existed, but it was hidden. The only thing that was hidden, let me tell you, the only thing that was hidden was white. That is what was hidden. And as a concession, white people got to be uh, were able to use the terms normal, neutral, natural, nude to identify themselves because whiteness disappeared. People born before the 1960s understand full well what the concept of whiteness as a state of being is. People born after 1968 do not know what that means because it disappeared. It went
Yeah.
away.
Is that why a lot of people, when I say white people, they get enraged?
You mean
The
they
white
can
people.
erase because
I'm not white people. What are you talking? Is that why? Or
yeah, that's part of it.
they're
And
like,
it depends. It depends because the white liberals, the ones who realize now it was white liberals who embraced that concept of assimilation because here was the thing on a spectrum of white supremacy there came a time when for black people it was either assimilation or annihilation. I want you to understand that during this period of time, a lot of black people were dying in riots. Okay. A lot of black people were dying trying to gain their rights to equality, equity, opportunity, and justice.
mhm.
So, you got armies coming into the cities. You had riot, black people were literally dying. So the question became, are we going to assimilate them or are we going to annihilate them?
Mhm.
Okay. So thankfully, assimilation was
Attempted.
chosen. And that in desegregation became racism. If we integrate them into our economic class cast, if we integrate them into our world, let's pull them into our thing. You had a lot of white people kicking and screaming because they're like, why do we don't want them in here. We don't want them doing being, they wanted, oh, here, this is what I want to say. Um, During this process of integration and desegregation, that whole concept of that, they put out there that it only meant like black people were fighting for the right to sit at the counter
Uh-huh.
with white people, to shop in the same stores,
Mhm.
to be in the same spaces and
Space.
places with white people. When that was the furthest thing from the truth. We were fighting for freedom, justice, equality, and equity and opportunity. It didn't matter whether we did it with you or without you.
Right.
But the question was assimilation versus annihilation.
Interesting.
Okay? Assimilation was chosen, and they integrated a number of black people, not all of them, but a number of black people into the white economic class cast. and a number of white people went kicking and screaming, and white people lost that concept of whiteness as a state of being. It at the same time, almost simultaneously, men lost a piece of their patriarchy as well. Remember, sexism. So now women, you couldn't use he in your sentence. You used she in your sentence when you were describing things. Remember, years and years ago, it was all about he. So all of these things were working simultaneously.
I was right in college, right? I was
Mm-hmm.
just a young college when you could put they or you could put
Mm-hmm.
she, and your college professor
You
couldn't
couldn't
mark
just say,
you.
you could say he or she,
Yep.
or she or they.
Yep. And your college professor couldn't mark you down,
You
and that
couldn't
was
just
like
say he
huge.
anymore.
Yep. That was huge.
So this was simultaneous with the whole integration of Black people into the white economic class caste. And so whiteness went away and was replaced for normal, neutral, and natural and
Oh my
new.
goodness.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
While in the background they were working on the institutions and the ability to chastise, because now that you see, Blackness was already considered bad, dark,
Well, everybody
black.
uses that as like
Even
a
if it's not even related to skin, but they
right.
associated our skin. I mean, come on, do I look black to you?
Well, you know what?
As
My
a color,
little
I mean, literally as a color. But see, you have to understand that they associated black and blackness with Black people for negative purposes.
yeah. Oh,
So it
absolutely.
didn't
Black
matter because
magic.
Black was already so in terms of color blindness, there was no way in the world that white people were going to see Black as anything but bad,
The only thing I can think of that is I
whether it was
actually
associated with skin or not. So in the
yeah.
meantime, they're working on content of character issues so that if you didn't want to use color as your tool, as your identifier, you could use the content of their criminal character.
That's terrifying. I remember when about 10 years ago when I was doing martial arts, I I tried to come up with something, anything that was amazing that had black. I was using what you're saying, like black is always the bad one. Black belt. That's it. I don't know how, I don't know why. I'm like, there we are. One. Black belt is prestigious.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I can't think of anything. It's like,
Nothing's with Black habits.
I don't get it. But I thought it was like 10 years. I was like, is there anything?
See, that was already ingrained in the psyche of Black and white human beings. So there was no need to make that, to hide that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was already associated with Black people, and Black people were so at this point were trying to uh, put lipstick on that pig by um, embracing it. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And saying, okay, you wanna say this is a bad thing, that Black is not beautiful, and we're saying yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Despite everything to the contrary, we're saying when you're referring to people, yeah, we are. So we developed our sense of Blackness when whiteness disappeared. That's why you had a whole bunch of angry white people, because their whiteness disappeared. This thing, if they didn't have anything economically, then they had their whiteness. They had that thing that said,
Yeah.
I'm better because my skin says I am.
Can, Dr. Dr. Cindy, I put this quote up. I probably do it once a month. And this is, I know it's nasty, but gosh darn it. You know what? I said, if the best thing you ever did in your freaking life is be born white, you got some serious issues. And I don't know why, but I just like, I'm not a nasty person, but it's like, for the love of God.
Yeah, but that's pretty much, that's what, yeah, that's all.
I just
that's
like
all
to
it
keep
is.
it like, it's true. It's like, it's
Mhm.
pathetic. It's pathetic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let's see, where are we? Oh my gosh. I keep you up all night. I will do it.
Well, I'm going to head out at 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Okay. I'm in till 12. You're awesome. Oh, we have some questions here. Let me see. Oh, okay. Let me just. Yep. Yeah. Twiz 13 was talking about Oprah Winfrey and the whole thing that you addressed. Exactly. I've skipped people. Oh, Lakeisha wanted to know, and I'm not sure 100% why black people are suicidal. Why the increase, maybe? Is that what she's talking about?
I'm not sure. Say that again.
Lakeisha wants to know, it says, why black people are suicidal.
Suicidal?
Yeah. There's been an increase. I know I've read a bunch of increases in like younger kids.
Again, I'm going to say I cannot answer that because
I don't know.
to do that would presuppose that I know everything about black people.
Yeah,
as a group.
Yeah, I think there's been some literature out recently.
I'm not sure. I'm sure that have been studies.
Yeah, I didn't see any academic stuff out.
I know that there are a number of black people who are suffering from mental illness. You can't live. It's a very difficult thing to live under this system.
Yeah.
And especially during the post-racial colorblind era where you weren't allowed to say that something happened to you as a result of racism when you knew it did, but you weren't allowed to articulate it because racism wasn't in existence anymore. Racism was over because why? Because racism was desegregation and integration. And now racism is over because why? Because we've integrated in. And so therefore that hidden system that was still churning and still perpetuating, we weren't allowed to say I didn't get that job because
when you're denied, that works on your psyche.
You're still denied because the institutions are still in place because they have to be in place because if they're not in place, hold on one sec. Who's that? Oh, okay.
What?
Because that's my son. I'm sorry.
Oh,
because if they're not in place, then it dissolves and obliterates the ideology of white supremacy. So these things
going to ruin everything and make us all.
But you're not allowed to say it is because they've gotten it twisted and they've created the individualism so that even though black people aren't allowed to express their individualism, they are still forced to share now the moniker of racist. So you can't say I didn't get that job because that racist over there didn't hire me.
Even though you know it's true.
Even though you know it's true.
And everyone else.
Because it's supposed to be all about the content of your character.
Yeah, that's
It's supposed to be because of something you didn't do.
Right, this stuff is complicated.
You didn't get a job because you didn't deserve it. I have a story about that. I was interviewing for a position as the CIO of the borough of Lower Merion, township of Lower Merion in Pennsylvania. It is in their what they call the what do they call it? It's their very affluent part of Pennsylvania. It's like the outlining suburbs, but it's very affluent. And I don't live that far from it, but I live worlds apart from it. But anyway, I was interviewing, and during that interview process, I had to write an essay. I had to give them reams of writing and reams of things that I've done over my career as an IT professional. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. There were levels I had to reach until I got to that final level of the in-person interview. They loved me to death. Oh, I pretty much had that job sewn up. So the last step was the in-person interview. I walked in and I was looking sharp as a tack. Like my mother used to say, sharp as a mosquito's Peter. I was looking sharp. Okay. And I sat there for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then the people came in. And when I tell you this is something that black people know because we experience it all the time. So we see it, even though it happens in milliseconds. I saw their mouths drop to the floor. I literally saw their jaws drop to the floor. I saw the surprise in their eyes. It was like, oh my God, she's blind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Changed everything. They sat there with me for an hour and we talked and they went through all of the motions.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that job.
Not a chance.
But guess what? I was more qualified than the woman that they gave it to.
Yeah.
But they gave it to a woman as opposed to a man. They gave it to a white woman, but they didn't give it to a man because then I'd have cause to sue. And I knew when
Yeah.
I saw their faces, I knew I didn't get that job.
Oh, absolutely. It's yeah.
And then there was this other instance where
God.
I was going to be working for a patent attorney, and I went there for it was everything. They just loved everything because I guess in my position they always want you to do stuff beforehand, and then I got to the level of the in-person interview. The guy comes out, mouth drops to the floor. I had to tell him where his conference room was. He was in shock.
He couldn't. He was like,
He couldn't. He was all aflutter. I had to show him where his conference room was. And what I had written, because they asked us to write an essay on what we thought the job duties would entail, and I did, and they were all excited and everything. Oh, great.
you're a great writer.
All
Yeah.
of a sudden, everything that I had written was not what they wanted.
It didn't matter.
So I ended up getting up and saying, excuse me, I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste any more of your
You're
time.
bold. I love it.
Perhaps the next time you begin an interview process, you should ask for photos first. And I left.
You actually said that. Oh my
Yes.
God. You
And I
are
left.
freaking bold. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
God, I love you. That's awesome.
I didn't do that to the CIO position. I just, I was gracious for that.
Yeah, yeah. You know what?
It was obvious. It was very obvious.
My friend Tim that I tell you about sometimes, he
Mhm.
tells me stuff. He lives in a very, very white area. And he tells me stuff. It's like, I mean, he's getting pretty funny about it too. He'll go right up and say like, he gets this. He goes to these meetings with the bird, what's it called? He's a bird watcher. So he'll walk in for the meeting and people come right up. May I help you? Are you lost? It's like, isn't this where the bird place, They just can't fathom, like, I mean, he tells me stories, like, every day. He used to tell me them all the time.
It's like, no, I'm not the help.
No, and no,
I'm the keynote speaker.
God, I love that. I just love that. That's, people just need to be, oh my goodness. Oh, it's real.
That's what we have to deal with. I mean, like I said, I've been dealing with it all my life. From the ferry to the little 8-year-old that I was riding my bike in his area, and I made a mistake and crossed Broad Street and on the wrong side, on the east side of Broad, and because I liked the playground that was there, and I was riding my bike around the block, and the little boy come running out of his house. I'm like, get out of my neighborhood, you nigger!
Oh my God, that's disgusting.
Oh God.
Yeah, I get stories because I have like so many different groups and so many people. Some people are like my friends, people who follow my stuff. I get stories constantly, and it's always consistent. And these people are all over the nation. This is not like they know each other. Always the same thing.
In Philadelphia.
Always the same damn thing every time.
Yeah, and I mean it's not as though we pick fights. I mean, we're not. Black people are not picking fights. We're trying to live.
No, it's
like, can I live?
It is all just caught existing while black. Caught exist. I did a video on that. Caught.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because in order for us to live, that doesn't mean you have to die.
It's crazy. Oh, I could go on and on. Let me see. Let me see. I'll do a couple more questions. I know we gotta get you out of here. I'm just thrilled to have you. This is like totally
I'm
awesome.
To be here. I really am.
So
I'm
much.
enjoying my conversation
This
with
is
you. I really am. But you know what though? We haven't hit those other subjects though.
I know.
You're gonna have to do another one.
I always do this, but you know what? That's a good sign.
You touched on a few because we did touch on.
Yeah, you touched on some of the executive
few
power branch and
Twitler.
There's just so much going on. It's I can't keep. How do you keep up? How do you keep up? I don't. Let me take a couple more questions and then we will say thank you to anybody who's left, which we appreciate. Lakeisha says, we are God's chosen people for the first and only people, and the first and only people on the planet. And,
you know what? I hear that.
Yeah.
And I understand where it comes from.
Yeah.
But that is also a presupposition of superiority on the other side.
Yeah. And maybe people feel like the balance is so.
That. Yeah, I caution against that.
Yeah.
Because, it could also be said that we were it could, evolution being what it is, that we were the animals and then we evolved.
Oh, it can be used kind of like
See what I'm saying? It can
against,
be used, it can be used against us. So I don't, I understand that.
Great point.
Yes, and we as a people.
Yeah.
From Africa.
The first. Right.
You could say that. But see, that also conflates people from different regions and countries in Africa into one big boat, which is, you really shouldn't do that.
It's not
either,
good. Yeah, right.
Africa is a continent.
Yeah. Some people don't know that. It's
a lot of different countries.
With different cultures, different everything.
Countries and cultures, yes.
Just like Muslim majority countries.
That conflates us. Yes, we do have a kindredness, a kindred spirit with Africa. Yeah. The motherland. We do, and nobody can take that away from us.
Right. Yeah.
But to presuppose we are superior because of that is not. It's counterproductive.
Yeah, you've heard that before, though, right? A lot of.
Yeah. That's a lot of. There are a couple of words, negative words that are used to describe people who really get into that piece of it. That part of it. I just call it Pan-Africanism, and it's cool.
Yeah, and for some, and I don't know much about it.
Ruhu, I think.
I know about.
Pronouncing it.
I know about them. Yes.
A Ruhu or something, or I don't focus on that. I don't focus on that history because there's too much of that history that has been wiped away.
Yeah.
And we'll never actually know.
Right.
Yeah.
I know exactly who you're talking about, and it's to each his or her own. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's I think for some people, some of my friends,
there's some people that use religion as a way of making people more superior than others and things like that.
I'm not into that.
I kind of step away from that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. And I think one of the only reasons some of my friends get really into that is simply because it's just so one-sided right now, and they want to just
and it creates a desire to be better. Yeah, I mean, I can dig it.
I get it.
That's the whole premise behind white supremacy.
Exactly.
To be better.
Exactly. Yeah.
Be better than something.
But if you've been abused for like centuries and centuries, I could see the lure, and I could see I don't blame them one bit. I mean, but,
me either. Yeah. I mean, I know where it comes from.
Right. Exactly. I knew you would. Yeah. Mr. F.S. Black. The people who really run the country have done a good job brainwashing white Americans into supporting the racist system by making them believe that they're socially better than blacks. They have. It's
socially, economically, politically.
They're good.
Religiously, everything.
When I was a little girl, I used to, and I was way little, and I had no idea what was going on, and I would go over to, I'd sneak downstairs and I'd see the television, and my parents would be watching the late night news, and they would have, and I was like 3, I was sneaking out of bed, and I'd see a bunch of black men in cuffs every single stinking night, and they'd have these lines over their face, like they're blocking out, like you couldn't tell who they were, and talk about, there's a push and a pull for white supremacy, and it is strong. And I'm not saying white people are off the hook, don't get me wrong, but it's strong. You get some real racist parents, and you get it's
complacent parents.
Or right. You know what? Or even good, nice parents who just are so uneducated or don't think that you are colorblind. I had very colorblind parents. Very colorblind. They didn't teach. I've never heard my parents.
I mean, let's face it. If this was a perfect world, we could say there's no such thing as race. We could say there's no such thing as color, and we could believe it that we're all human beings. But that's not the case. That's not reality. So we have to deal with the fact that these
Yeah.
things have been created, whether they're constructs or not. They were created.
That's what people
And
get
they
mad at
have
me about.
become reality for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
we just have to come to grips with that before
Yeah.
we can come to that kumbaya human.
Yeah.
We all humans.
Well, and I get that a lot from people. We're just all humans. And I said, but you see, that's lovely.
Then you shouldn't have created that other thing.
Yeah, you shouldn't have.
Those people, those white people in power, shouldn't have created that other thing.
Yeah, because even it's a construct, that's what we use to hurt. So,
That's right.
and I need the vocabulary because it's tough. But you are amazing. I am going to be so in trouble. All of our sweet, wonderful people. I'm trying to see how much. Oh, I love that people are so involved in this. It's just, this was amazing. I cannot thank you and the people who are watching and
Hey, it was my pleasure.
thank you
It was
so
my
much.
pleasure.
Like I feel so like I got to know you and
I read an essay. I answered some questions. I mean, I really, really enjoyed this interview.
I'm
really
so
did.
glad.
I really did. I really
You're
did.
amazing.
I had a feeling, I knew what to anticipate because I watch you and I contribute and I'm one of your fans. So,
oh, you are so sweet.
yeah.
That is like the nicest thing anyone's ever said.
I mean, I am. I'm not going to play. I mean, I'm not playing games here. And you are. You. I mean, you're one of my. I mean, I embrace you and I appreciate you.
Thank you. I look up to you so much and
Thank you.
I cannot thank you enough. And you're awesome. Wow. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody watching. We are going to have your stuff at the in the descriptions.
Okay.
And we'll get all that.
And I will give you the names of those books that I mentioned.
Yes.
And you can then put them, you can maybe list those. Somebody asked me on another live that I did, why don't I put together a book club or a book, list of books. And I am going to do that. I just have to get off my lazy duff and.
Oh, you do so much already, God. But yeah. Oh, yeah, it's awesome. We want all your information. And I really, really want people to go to your videos.
Okay.
They're really, really good.
Oh,
and I will be
very unprofessional, but
No, you know what?
It's like I'm doing right now. If you see me doing this is what I do on my videos.
This form right now that you're in is a comfortable form. I want real. I want real. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
So, and you were wonderful. So, thank you to everybody.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to head out.
Okay. Thank you so much,
And
everybody.
It's a pleasure.
You're amazing.
Dr. Cynthia out.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night. And I will try to turn this off if I can. And I will see you all in the comments. Please come next week because we're going to have another show. Bye. I might not be able to turn this off, actually.
I'll do it.
We need a professional. But thank you so much for everybody who's watching. That was cool.